finish the season. I don't think they're going to fire him in season at this point.
You do not believe he will be head coach next season?
I don't. No, I think it'll be somewhere else.
Do you think there's a 0% chance that he is head coach there next season?
I think he's in Chicago or Washington next year.
Is that right?
That's what I think.
What about the Chargers?
Maybe the Chargers.
Interesting.
Be a lovely place to live.
Oh, my gosh.
To L.A.?
Yeah, if you're
But I think of Bill Belichick as a northeastern type of coach.
But maybe he's getting older. He wants to go in the sun.
He's a violin prodigy. Her full name is Maggie V. Stallion. They are Maggie and Perloff on CBS Sports Radio.
Man, it was shocking, but that doesn't mean it was wrong. Florida State gets snubbed out of the college football playoff. Hey, good morning, Maggie. Great, Andrew Perloff. We also had a football game last night that was pretty amazing with the Chiefs and the Green Bay Packers, a big NFL Sunday. We'll get to all of that today, but Perloff, it's still the college football playoff is the number one story in sports this morning.
You're still calling it the college football playoff, even though it's not a playoff. It's clearly just some sort of weird beauty contest / invitational. Do you call ice skating finals playoff? Do you call gymnastics?
Is there a Russian judge here that I'm not aware of?
As, I'm stealing this from this speech that's going viral from former coach Mike Leach, who passed away. It's not a playoff. There's nothing about this playoff. It's an invitational at best. This does not mean I am not even crowning the national title after this because it's just a beauty contest. So what are we doing here? This is supposed to be football, Maggie.
Okay, Tommy DeVito is the only interesting thing going on, so I hope that continues. The Jets are not interesting. The Jets are
do you want to see the beauty contestant who got in on a technicality, or do you want to see the four pretty girls? I don't want to actually continue on with this analogy.
So you will admit it's a beauty contest.
I will admit that when the executive director of the committee, a guy by the name of Bill Hancock, doesn't matter, just a suit.
But man, I tell you,
when he says that it's about getting the four best teams or as close to the four best teams as possible.
Really a college football beauty contest. Sports are not judged by a bunch of people in a room saying, I think this team is better. Sports are judged on the field. And it feels like this decision to leave Florida State out meant that they were not judging what happened on the field.
Okay, this is what's being judged on the field. The ACC clearly is not a Power 5 conference anymore.
They're clearly as good as they killed the SEC this year. They were 6-4 against SEC, and Florida State manhandled the ACC.
Okay, but this is how the committee looks at this conference, because when you look at the head-to-head, sure, beat the SEC, but you're talking about all the way down through the depth chart of the SEC. We're not talking about the top-heavy, besides that FSU win over LSU. But again, that was really early on this season when you have a major difference now between that FSU team and this one, which is no Jordan Travis, 55 passing yards. And I know they were down to their third-string quarterback in the game against Louisville, but even if they had their second-string quarterback, this is not going to be the same team. I think the committee,
not disagreeing with that, but who cares?
It's like something nefarious happened here. What's the nefarious thing that happened? I feel terrible for the kids, the young men from FSU. I feel terrible for the coaches. How could you not? But we're talking about, let's be honest, a television product where right now FSU, every coach would be licking their chops if they could draw FSU, just like they licked their chops with Cincinnati a couple of years ago.
Yeah, and Cincinnati won a game, didn't they?
No, they lost Alabama.
Right, they lost Alabama. But they were kind of close in that game. I got to tell you, FSU's defense could probably cause problems for anyone.
Yes, that's right.
And the other thing, too, just because FSU would be big underdogs, all the big underdogs kind of, Alabama was a big underdog to Georgia. The SEC was not the SEC. Obviously, I think Georgia was extremely down. We saw that on Saturday. The best two offensive weapons were playing at 50%. Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey. Alabama is not a great Alabama team this year. They've been going toe-to-toe with the Auburns and Arkansas of the SEC. So this is a year where I think the ACC has an argument. I just do not like this. I do not like the lack of a real playoff that's going on here. I have to admit, it's funny that the committee has an out next year because they're going to 12 teams.
None of this will matter.
This is the year it should have gone to 12 teams.
How come you haven't done that?
Conference commissioners were such knuckleheads, and it finally stopped screwing around 2 years ago. They wanted to make the playoff this year. Then we would have had a real playoff, and we would have been able to really determine who's the national champion. For example, if Alabama loses a close game in a national title game, are they crowned a national champion because the committee thinks they look good?
Okay, well, let's pause on one thing, right? Because
New England's worse.
You're 100% right, and we've talked about this even before the results came in on Sunday morning about who they picked to go to to the college football playoff, which is obviously Michigan 1, Washington 2, Texas 3, Alabama 4. And we can talk about whether Washington got snubbed and should have gotten the number 1 seed and a chance to play at the Rose Bowl. But we'll talk about that in a minute. Anyway, this was the year that the committee could pull off something as bold as to leave out an undefeated Power 5 conference team because they're not worried about what type of precedent it says moving forward.
Which was a question that was asked as well to Rob Saleh.
What have they ever worried about precedent? To call that group of idiots in that room bold is insane.
First of all,
tell us what you really think.
I think the committee is the stupidest thing in all sports. And honestly,
you want to go back to the BCS and do the computers again?
No, I want to go to 12 teams, and I want it to happen right this year. In fact, I think they should change on the fly because that committee, they have no idea what they're looking at. Who are they to judge football anyways? Many people point out most of them aren't even football people. They're administrators.
Okay, so one thing that
in some way, I wouldn't do that. I don't know what the hell they're thinking. It doesn't matter who plays. It doesn't matter anymore. It does not matter who plays quarterback for the Jets for the rest of the year.
Director at NC State.
It's Aaron Rodgers, which would be a mistake.
And is presiding over a team in his conference getting like an all-time snub. He talked about the perspective of the committee's football people when they were deciding between FSU and Alabama. Let's hear cut 11.
The questions that we do ask is from a coaching standpoint. Who do you want to play? Who do you not want to play? And as we go through that, again, looking at where we are today,
it's not over for the
right?
players.
Not where we were 3 weeks ago or
I was saying
8 weeks ago. Who do they want to play? Who do they not want to play? And they've got a significant voice in the room.
Maybe reach for the fact that maybe the Patriots are trying to lose every single game.
Coaches who are in the room, they said, just like I said, you'd be licking your chops to play FSU right now because, yes, great defense, but down offense. Like, this would be not even close. Coaches would say, I'd much rather play FSU, wounded duck FSU than Alabama.
Yeah, well, thanks for that deep analysis. Like, you need 12 years in the NFL to tell me that FSU is not playing well right now. I understand.
Yeah,
I totally understand. I'm not going to say that FSU would have been good in this Final Four. I just think they deserve it because you don't want to be a judge sport because then people think what happens on the field is not as important. Like, who's going to schedule an early season matchup now? FSU went out of their way to schedule LSU and killed them, and it meant nothing to the committee. So why would a power program schedule anybody good? So you're going to have power programs scheduling Troy State instead of a good opponent.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like I'm trying to compare these two teams. It just gives you a sort of picture
you're going to get in
when things
September
work in the
and into
NFL
November.
offensively.
They don't care about that. They mean college football playoff like powers or college football powers that be, because now you're going to have this single elimination tournament at the end of the season, and that's going to be the whole sport.
I mean, they got shut out yesterday, so I guess they're worse.
College football people,
but I mean, 8 points.
The ones who don't like this are so ticked off because yes, more of the regular season has less meaning. Yet the playoffs, when they get here, people are going to love it.
But wait, so the regular season, the end of the regular season meant nothing as well because Florida State also won those games. So nothing that happens before this 4-team quote-unquote playoff matters. None of it matters. Basically, they're going to pick the 4 best teams. So if that's their rationale, then who cares who wins any game?
Do you think they got it wrong in terms of the 4 best teams?
No, of course not. Because Georgia's probably one of the 4 best teams, but that is a ridiculous criteria. You could have a team that lost 3 games. I mean, honestly, I don't think anyone would really want to see a healthy LSU team, and there's no way anybody was looking at them. So, no, I think they probably have 4 of the best 5 teams, but it doesn't matter. You still had to put Florida State in there.
855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Just want to point one other thing out here for the FSU versus Alabama crowd. Alabama, highest ranked strength of schedule, 4 ranked wins, including the win over Georgia. Sure, 3-point win, but they win and beat Georgia. They were getting in. The SEC was not getting left out of this college football playoff, and I think that's correct. I do think even if it's a quote-unquote down year for the SEC, it still is the premier football conference in this country. The fact they would have a Final Four without them does seem ridiculous.
Yeah, I got to tell you, Alabama better play well. They better beat Michigan, who's not playing well by any means.
Well, they just shut out Iowa.
I know.
Take that for
remember when J.J. McCarthy was a top 5 pick in the NFL? They've lost their entire passing game. Alabama better win this game. Otherwise, I think people are going to look at this year and say, oh, what a disaster. For the final year, the Final Four, what a mess. Would have been even better, by the way, if Oregon had won. And then they also would have been in that mix, and the committee would have had to come up with some more ridiculous rationale for how they decided their Final Four.
Well, I mean, let's talk about, should Washington be the number 1 seed here?
Wait, why?
Because they have the better wins. They beat Oregon twice. They something better than what Michigan has.
Michigan beat Ohio State.
That's 1 good win. This is 2 good wins.
But 2 good wins. How do you know the Pac-12 is that good? I mean, Washington almost lost to Washington State, who's a losing team. I think that's a tough argument. Michigan has been much more consistent than Washington.
Like the Big Ten is anything. I mean,
yes, the Big Ten is definitely better than the Pac-12.
Well, but this is the year where the Pac-12 actually can say that they are better than the Big Ten. There's a lot of bottom dwellers in the Big Ten.
Yeah,
it's a lot of chum.
I don't know. I think the Big Ten is still a better conference. I mean, the Pac-12, have they ever won a Final Four game? I don't think they have Washington made it once.
Yeah.
Let's see. Who's the other?
Yeah, but I'm talking about
Oregon made it. No, I don't think Oregon's won a Final Four game.
I'm talking about right now. We're looking at that Oregon team. That is a very good team.
Well, you're using the rationale that you wouldn't want to see Alabama. Obviously, you'd much rather play Washington than Michigan, right? Oh, come on. Washington is probably the most vulnerable team of these 4.
They might be vulnerable, but I could flip that and say they're also battle-tested. Like, for Michigan, beyond what? The Ohio State game, which was a close game without their coach on the sideline? I don't know. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Phone lines are open. Let's waste no time, guys. Let's get to it. Scoob's up first. He's in Birmingham. Have to imagine there are some very happy people in Alabama today. Scoob, what's up?
Hey, what's going on? Yeah, I would say that we're pretty happy, but I got a couple of things to discuss just briefly.
Sure.
Based off your counterpart saying that he believes that they partially got it wrong here, are we still having this discussion if Georgia gets in? Are your thoughts still on that? Let's say Florida State's still left out, Bama's left out, and Georgia gets in. Is the world still having this discussion? That's my first question.
Yes. What's the difference?
Okay, let me ask you this. Do you remember last year when TCU lost their conference championship game, how many places did they fall?
Well, none, because there was no one to take their spot.
Say that again.
I don't think they fell any spots, right?
Right. Okay. Georgia loses. They're ranked number 1, much higher than TCU. Do you agree that Georgia goes to 6? Can you really validate that?
Yes, because Georgia didn't schedule anybody. I mean, it wasn't totally their fault, but they didn't play anybody. And also, too, this is not a good Georgia. Last year's Georgia team would have beat this year's Georgia team by 30 points. I mean, they lost all the pros, and their best 2 receivers were injured.
I know, but if you use that logic that this Georgia team is not as good, then Alabama's win over Georgia shouldn't mean what it means by that logic that you're talking about.
You know who else is not as good? Alabama's not as good as last year. Well, last year's Alabama team would kill this year's Alabama team. No, I understand what you're saying, Scoop. But listen, I like the Alabama team. It's nothing against them, but this is a different year because you have all these undefeated conference champions. Scoop, don't you see that?
I do see that. But I also see what they said in that room, and I'm going to rectify this as loud as I can. You cannot base off what Florida State is doing right now over the past 2 weeks, because if you do, they are far more than just mediocre. They're just a team with a good defense. You cannot put Florida State in a college football playoff based off what Jordan Travis did all the way up until his injury. That is not the same Florida State.
Yeah.
Me personally, do you want to see another Georgia-TCU matchup? Do you want to see another Michigan-Iowa in a quarterfinal? Where
I know,
they blanket somebody.
I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that, and I appreciate this. I think the fact that, and thank you so much for the call, I think that the fact that Jordan Travis is not there and the offense does look so different should matter. But on the flip side, people will tell you, well, Alabama was a 10-point underdog. Washington ended up being, a 9.5-point underdog. Like, you got to play the game.
Yeah, I mean, Florida State obviously could get somebody into a low-scoring dogfight, and Jared Verse will single-handedly win the game. I don't think everyone's saying that Florida State would get killed. Michigan doesn't look like the kind of team that's going to win games 49-0 right now. They're playing very conservative. Did they run the ball 25 times in a row 2 games ago?
Yeah, and against Penn State.
I don't think Florida State would be embarrassing by any means. Listen, I totally understand. I feel like I'm coming off anti-Alabama. I love Jalen Milroe. I think it was a huge win on Saturday. It's just the way it fell this year. There were all these undefeated conference champions.
Well, no, I think anyone can get it. Even if I think the committee got it more right than wrong, and you think they got it more wrong than right, I think anyone could say, listen, it took a prayer, literally a play called Gravedigger, to beat Auburn in the Iron Bowl, and then this was just a 3-point win on a neutral field against a Georgia team that's not the same as the last 2 years. I think there's plenty on both sides here. How about Shad's in Iowa? Morning, Shad.
Good morning. How are you today?
Fantastic. What's up, dude?
All right, so here's my thing. Florida State got killed by a couple of things here. One, Texas beating Alabama, because that screwed everything up for the committee. But
Texas blowing out Oklahoma State. That wasn't even close. There was no wiggle room. Texas has actually played their best football, besides that Alabama game, the last 2 weeks of the season.
Right, and the other thing that killed them, and I know this is going to sound odd, but hear me out. The other thing that killed them was the Michigan-Iowa game, because the committee got to see what a team with no offense is going to look like going up against a team like Michigan.
Good
and
point.
Do we really want to see Michigan versus Florida State? No one wants to see that, because you're going to get Michigan versus Iowa
2.0.
all over again.
Shad, it's a smart point by you.
Yeah, but listen, Michigan beat TCU last year, who everyone's saying should not have been in there anyway. I'm sorry, TCU beat Michigan. TCU beat Michigan, and they were underdogs. How do we know that Michigan how that game's going to play out? Nobody predicted that the TCU and Michigan were going to be, 45-42? That was a great all-time game. I think everyone's assuming they knew what was going to happen here. I don't know. I mean, listen.
Yeah, but TCU was scoring with everybody last year.
Well, Florida State's going to upgrade their offense with Tate Rodemaker there, and he was actually almost played right before that game. So it wasn't like their third-string freshman quarterback. I think that Florida State would be more competitive. I think I'm on an island on that one. But regardless, I don't care any of that. If they're just picking the best 4 teams, and what does record matter at all, Maggie? I mean, what if there was an 8-3 team that looked really good? You're telling me they would put them in?
855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. See you guys on the phones. Today is about you, because that was incredibly controversial. You see where Perloff and I land on this. I think that the committee was right in what they did in leaving FSU out. Perloff thinks it's a travesty. It is a hypocrisy. What else do you got?
Yeah, a lot of fancy words. It's a, what do you call it? A miscarriage of justice.
There you go. And meanwhile, it looks like there could be some people in Florida who want to take this to the courts.
Yeah, of course, because we saw that coming. EJ, we should also put up a poll. Who should have gotten in Alabama or Florida State?
Definitely.
I got to tell you, I'm a little nervous about this poll.
I think that Florida State's getting a lot of sympathy right now.
Yeah.
I think you saw how crushed the players were. I mean, the fact they had the camera on them. I don't know how many people were watching that, but they had the selection show, if you will. And it was basically the exact opposite of what happens for the NCAA tournament. Instead of guys celebrating, it was just devastation in the room. Yes, EJ.
ESPN chose violence playing that video back. That was one of the most brutal things I've ever seen.
It felt mean.
Yeah.
Compelling television. 855, which usually goes hand in hand. 855-212-4CBS. Okay, see you guys on the phones. We want to hear from you. Did FSU get snubbed, or did the committee do the right thing? Again, you can watch us, youtube.com/CBS Sports Radio, twitch.tv/CBS Sports Radio. We're just getting going here on this Monday. Maggie and Perloff.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
All right, you can stream the NFL on Westwood One for free, sponsored by AutoZone. All season long, you can listen to every Westwood One broadcast of the NFL live on the NFL app by asking Alexa to open Westwood One Sports, or on the Odyssey app. Get in the zone, AutoZone. The free AutoZone Fix Finder service can help you find a fix for free. Get in the zone, AutoZone. Restrictions apply. Welcome back to Maggie and Perloff. NFL, right, where they determine winners on the field, unlike college football, where it is a beauty pageant or an invitational or some sort of weird old boys network decision. I don't even know what they're doing anymore.
The NFL is decided by bad referee calls, whereas college football playoff is decided by a bunch of dudes in a conference room in Grapevine, Texas.
No, come on. You're just coming off of one of the worst minutes of officiating in NFL history last night at 11 o'clock.
I don't know. If you were a fan of the Chiefs, how did you sleep last night? Would you just lay in bed with the covers up around your neck? Just how did they not call the pass interference at the end?
Well, I mean, listen, the Packers got screwed twice in that final minute, too. It was equal opportunity screwing last night.
Wow.
What was that?
Clip that.
Wait, what does that came out wrong. I'm just all upset about the college football playoff and saying things I shouldn't say.
You stop off in Denver before you came back?
Exactly. The swingers capital of the world. Actually, Spencer Seeks in the chat, youtube.com/CBS Sports Radio, twitch.tv/CBS Sports Radio says, wondering what hat Maggie wore to the suburbia swingers soiree after the watch party.
Wait, was it decided that your suburban party last Saturday night was a swingers party in the chat?
It would probably be a pretty lame swingers party, to be honest. I can get into that party. We did have a good time, but there was one very big thing that happened that I'm sure a lot of other people can relate to. Yeah.
Is it naughty? Or?
It's not naughty.
Oh.
It's lame.
Oh, okay.
We'll get to that in just a little bit because we have your phone calls about the college football playoff. The question, did FSU get snubbed by being left out of the top 4? Mike is in Florida. Mike, good morning, sir.
Hey, good morning. How are you doing?
Fantastic. What do you think, dude?
I mean, it's a travesty. FSU did everything right. Everything. Won every game. Games matter. When it mattered, we won. We won a championship with a third-string quarterback. Did we look impressive offensively? Absolutely not. But did we look impressive defensively? Absolutely. And you know what? We won. There's 0 losses in our loss column. End of story. And what I think we're not even discussing is, what about Michigan? They looked lackluster. They had less offense than Florida State with our third-string quarterback against a team that was ranked less. And they cheated previous in the season. And nobody talks about it. Nobody discusses it. How they even said, you know what? There's a cheating scandal going on. They're not even in discussion for, to even be out of the playoffs. Do they not get punished, or do we punish them after they make it? Oh, well, next year they're going to lose some picks, blah, blah, blah. How about we don't let them in? I don't know. Why is FSU the one on the outside saying which one of these teams should be in? I don't know. I can tell you Michigan doesn't look very impressive either.
Yep. Mike, the only thing I can tell you, and this isn't going to make you feel better today, is that the committee values the Big Ten more than they value the ACC. And I'm not and I know that's not a great answer, but that's what I got for you. And I'm not even sure if that's right. And Mike makes a lot of good points there.
I understand.
They value the SEC.
My argument is a team to kick out is not Michigan. Michigan, they won ugly, but they got NFL players up and down that roster. They're clearly a very good team.
You don't think there's NFL players though on that Florida State defense?
More.
Definitely.
I think they're way more on Michigan.
Jared Verse could be a top 5 pick.
No, Florida State's got Keon Coleman and Jared Verse, but you look at Michigan's roster. Our buddy Jim Nagy was saying that they're going to set the record for most drafted players this year. They are really, really. They're winning smash mouth football. What? All of a sudden, we don't like smash mouth football. Florida State should like that kind of football. They should say, "Look, Michigan's in. We should be in too."
Yeah, I guess the other thing, and again, you're putting me in a tough position to defend the committee here, even though I think they did get it right. I think for Michigan, it's a style they play. For Florida State, it's surviving the moment, right? Because that's not what the team looked like for most of the year. The team was a dynamite offensive team for most of the year. And now, because they have injuries and such, yes, they still gutted out these wins. It does not look the same. Let's keep going. 855-212-4CBS. Let's go to our pal Nebbies, who's in Pennsylvania. Good morning, Nebby.
Good morning. I am on the island with Perloff on this. And I want to throw another big word: fraudulent. The college football committee's fraudulent, and I'll give you my reasons why. One, they've ranked Florida State above Georgia. So if they're number 5 and Georgia's number 6, and Georgia lost by 3 to Alabama, how can they say that they're just gutless, and they're just gutless in that call.
Yeah, they had no idea what to do with Georgia. They had no clue what to do with Georgia because
they ranked them ahead of Georgia.
Yes,
they have no clue what to do with anything. Name any school, just fill in the blank.
You might be right about
that. Florida State just beat an SEC team with their backup quarterback, while Alabama was struggling and needed a miracle to pull off the win against Auburn. Florida State handled Florida in their last regular season game.
Yep.
Florida State just got hosed. There's just no way around it.
Nebby.
I mean, they ranked Florida State ahead of Georgia.
Yeah, Nebby, thanks for the call. Great to hear from you, Nebby, one of the weedos and coffee drinkers in the chat. Yes, the Georgia part of this doesn't make a lot of sense.
No, it's hard to be consistent here because the system is stupid. They set themselves up for failure. Why? First of all, I mean, they should have been at 12 this year. When you look back, our buddy Dan Wetzel had a column saying the mistakes started long before they sat in the room. They're going to go to 4. They had to go to 12. Before, it was inevitable that they'd come into this kind of problem because they have 5 major conferences.
I know. I just don't love the 12. I think you could have gone to 8.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
And maybe we still could have had the same type of thing where you're talking about big time programs and, in, out. It still feels very exclusive. 12 teams feels good. Does it feel exclusive, though? Andrew Bogusch is here. He's got some headlines. By the way, we see you guys on the phones. We are going to do so many phone calls today because this is about you, sports fans, and how they feel about what happened with the college football playoff. But good morning, Andrew.
Good morning, guys. Your headlines are sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Progressive Insurance for motorcycles, boats, and RVs for protection on the road and on the water. See how much you can save at 1-800-PROGRESSIVE and Progressive.com. Now, if there was an NFL postseason committee, would they consider the Chiefs' record with Taylor Swift in attendance? Usually, KC wins, and Travis Kelce's numbers go up when she's there. Now, Kelce did have 4 catches for 81 yards, but the Chiefs lost at Lambeau last night.
Snap to Mahomes, looking, steps up, scrambling left, still looking, still waiting, fires it into the end zone. Broken up, incomplete, and there is your dagger. The game is over. The Packers have defeated the Chiefs.
Wayne Larrivee on Packers Radio. Green Bay, the 27-19 win behind 3 touchdown passes from Jordan Love. Mahomes' final prayer unanswered. He was also picked off with 5:14 to go, so his team is now 4-1. When Tay-Tay watches Trav, and I can't believe I just had to say that.
It's an intangible is what the committee would call that.
Is she going to break up with him now that they're not winning?
To be honest, I think this is more about, is the universe off kilter because Brittany Mahomes might be cool? And, I don't know if we can actually handle that.
That will never happen.
Why do you think Brittany Mahomes is cool? Because she's friends with Taylor?
Exactly.
Oh, no. She's still not cool.
Which, again, is the proof that this is real. Because Taylor doesn't need to be friends with Brittany Mahomes if this is a bit with Travis Kelce.
By the way, Kansas City, if they were in college football, they could be 5-9 and get into the AFC title game if it was college football. Because the committee would be like, we want Taylor.
By the way, my girlfriend, who's a huge Taylor Swift fan, we fight about this literally every time we watch a Chiefs game. She is convinced that the whole Brittany Mahomes, Taylor Swift friendship is purely Taylor Swift using Brittany Mahomes to get into good graces with the NFL fans, which I keep telling her is weird because NFL fans don't like Brittany Mahomes.
Right.
Yeah,
she should be pouring beers on her head.
I was going to try to be friends with Jackson Mahomes.
Right,
we don't like any of these people. She says this is
all about the optics, showing that she's really a part of this Chiefs movement.
But don't you have to be fake friends with your boyfriend's best friend's wife?
That's her point.
Yeah, I think she's right. You disagree with her? You think that?
No, I think Brittany Mahomes reminds Taylor Swift of the girl she left behind in Pennsylvania.
Wow.
Oh, deep dive.
That's an interesting psychological profile.
Oh, I think we're going to have to take a break. No, I actually thought that...
Where's the lie?
I really thought that Taylor going to Green Bay made me think this thing is real.
Yeah.
See? Travis going to Argentina, I'm like, it's still a bit. I'm going to Green Bay in December? Damn.
I told you.
Sheesh.
A 14-hour flight to Argentina is less of a hassle than going to Green Bay, Wisconsin.
I'm just saying. No, I love Green Bay, but it's just that's a big ask in December.
Oh, my gosh. I love the psychology. The girls that she left behind in Wyalusing, Pennsylvania.
I mean, think about it. I mean, Taylor Swift, she has written in her music about how, like, she really wasn't liked in high school.
Yeah, she was kind of a dork.
Right. So I think that in many ways, like, she's always wanted to be like, oh, I'm dating the big jock on the high school team. So, oh, my friend is the girlfriend of the quarterback. Like, it makes perfect sense in that regard.
She can be friends with the mean girls. But she's already friends with all the other mean girls. It's called Hollywood, and she's basically at the top of the food chain. Now she needs Brittany Mahomes.
Selena Gomez is an angel. We do not have Selena Gomez slandered while
Blake Lively as well. She's not a friend of mean girls. She's a friend of the cool girls.
I don't know. Blake Lively is not a mean girl?
Selena Gomez, Lively, Sophie Turner. Those are the coolest girls in Hollywood.
We don't know these people. I can't imagine that they are the nicest people in the world.
So you don't know them, but you can decide that they're bad.
I mean, I've worked with
like your Wembenyama takes.
I've worked with Hollywood starlets before. Have you, Andrew? I've been in a scene with Susan Sarandon, and I can tell you right now, she is not a nice person.
Oh my gosh, Susan Sarandon taking strays.
But why would Blake Lively?
Also, I love that mic drop from Perloff. I've been in a scene with Susan Sarandon.
Why would you think Blake Lively's? If I've ever seen someone who looked like a mean girl, it's Blake Lively. I saw her do it in Gossip Girl.
That's called acting.
I don't know.
I do feel like a lot of people who just named are considered the people that are kind of nice. Like I know Selena Gomez has been, she's been like a victim of bullying. I feel like Sophie Turner.
Who hasn't been a victim of bullying?
Right.
I'm not trying to dismiss anybody's feelings here, but aren't we all?
She's talked a lot about it, and then of course Sophie Turner's going through this, messy divorce, and a lot of people are supporting her as a young mom. I feel like she's kind of gathered all the baby faces of Hollywood, so to speak, and has made them her clique. And I don't know why Brittany Mahomes is in there, but like I said, I think it's because it reminds her of Old Town, Pennsylvania.
Gosh, on another day, I could do an hour on this topic.
Guys, we got callers, we got college football players.
You piqued my interest, I have to admit.
The Chiefs lost last night. We've got too much. We got Kenny Pickett's hurt. Like, what are we doing here?
And then also this happened yesterday.
1st and 10 Niners in the Philly 48. Purdy looks left, now middle, throws, caught. Broken tackle by Deebo Samuel, runs for a first down, 30, 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown! San Francisco!
There was a tweet last night of what will Perloff's excuse be for this, and the initial reaction is the Eagles were tired.
Yes.
Yeah.
They were tired. Fatigued. Run
3 games in 13
down.
days.
Oof.
3 games in 13 days, including an overtime game against Maggie's Bills.
Yeah, but you won these games. Like,
but it doesn't matter. You were still exhausted.
I don't know. You came out relatively unscathed, too, in terms of health. Like, you had Lane Johnson back for this game.
I know.
I think you specifically sat him against the Bills to get him ready for this game, and he's obviously the key to everything, according to you.
Well, we have linebacker injuries. There's a lot going on. The Eagles, first of all, Deebo Samuel, that's great. You won a regular season game. Let's see you in the playoffs, buddy.
So 42-19 was the final for the Niners yesterday. If the Eagles weren't tired, they would have lost by what score?
Well,
like 42-30?
Two-score game.
You guys watched the game. The Eagles came out on fire. They just couldn't. If they had punched in one of those first 2 touchdowns, different game. But come on, everyone knew the Eagles were going to blow that game, right? I mean, it was a tough spot. That was their Super Bowl. Now we on to Dallas.
I think for the 49ers, I think the Super Bowl's their Super Bowl. I don't think it's a regular season game in Philly.
Deebo is acting like that was the biggest game. He's been talking about it for a month.
Yeah, but Deebo's talking all the time. He's just one of those guys.
Not talking about anyone except Philly.
And then he scored a bazillion touchdowns.
He's
really literally
did.
running through your team yesterday. He had a good game,
very fast.
He seems good.
I will give you the Niners are the best team in the NFL, but last night doesn't scare me. If we could get them back in Philly, then there'll be a different result.
That's a bold and a boom as well.
I don't know. I don't think the Niners need home field.
I don't think the Niners care where they play. That game could have been on Mars. That ass kicking was coming.
It was coming.
Yeah, but give the Eagles some rest. We'll see. And also, we're signing 3 players today. Did you guys know about that?
No.
Shaq Leonard's coming, Zach Ertz is coming, and maybe Marcus Peters. Although,
why don't you just bring back Brian Dawkins? And,
I was like, how old? What's the collective age of those people?
By the way, if we could get Brian Dawkins, we need that guy.
A couple snaps.
I mean, listen, also, Can we just say free Big Dom?
Are we going to get
free
to
Big Dom?
Big Dom.
Is he trapped somewhere? What do you mean free Big Dom?
He's the security guard, so he'd be trapping himself.
The Eagles security guard's about to get suspended for life. What's the NFL
the Eagles security guard who got Drake Green lost was kicked out of the game, which was ridiculous. This is the most BS offsetting penalties of all time, that one team loses starting linebacker and the other team loses the head of security.
Big Dom.
Yeah, Big Dom, Meatball Parm Dom.
Fair trade.
Yeah. So Dom, meanwhile, is probably never going to be on an NFL sideline ever again as long as he lives, and will also get a statue in Philadelphia somewhere.
Yeah. Deserved.
Don't the kid from Miami and Big Dom guys do some kind of collab now? These are two kind of
K-Fits?
K-Fits, kind of two ancillary figures that got, banned by the NFL. It's been vendetta against the NFL, against guys, inserting themselves into NFL football games.
No, we need now Big Dom to have a video like K-Fits, the 20-year-old social media guy who Tyreek Hill took his phone out of his hand to do a backflip, and then the NFL barely banned the kid from the sideline. We need Big Dom. Hey, everyone.
Yeah. Try
Big
to do
Dom
backflip.
here.
No, I think Spotify just paid $100 million for the Big Dom and K-Fizz podcast.
We're trying to book them. It's impossible.
Let's do some college football news, non-bowl, non-CFP news. Houston is hiring Tulane's Willie Fritz to replace Dana Holgerson. Fritz just had the green wave in the AAC title game. They'll play their 5th bowl game in 6 seasons. And a baseball trade last night. Second salary dump this offseason for the Mariners. They send lefty Marco Gonzalez and first baseman Evan White to the Braves, saving $29 million. They tack on young outfielder Jared Kelnick as a thank you to Atlanta for taking that cash off their hands. Guys, back to you.
Jared Kelnick, don't get me started. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Phone lines, get them in now, guys. We see you. This is about you and the college football playoff. Did FSU get snubbed, or was the committee right to go more with the eye test here about who are the top four of the best college football teams? 855-212-4CBS. Don't move. Maggie and Perloff and you next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. "45 seconds remaining. "30 seconds remaining. "15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back. Simply put, Perloff has a major issue with the College Football Playoff Committee leaving Florida State out of the top 4. I understand where they're coming from. Did they get it perfectly right? Maybe not. Maybe Georgia could have had a say. But I do think that they looked at FSU and thought, this is not the same team as the one that beat LSU. Yeah. They're down to the third-string quarterback. Even if it was the second-string quarterback, this is a team that had 55 passing yards against Louisville. It just would have been – they're not one of the 4 best teams right now.
I am not disagreeing with that fact, but the committee's also setting the message, what happens on the field doesn't matter, that we're making a decision based on optics. We're not making a decision based on what happened on the field. And I think that's a dangerous message for any sport to send. Even though they're getting rid of this mess next year and going to 12 teams, they're still going to have the legacy of this decision saying that you're going to have this Florida State undefeated. I mean, they'll lose the bowl game because nobody's going to play by 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, they're going to play Georgia.
But they're 14-point underdogs. But I still think that Florida State team is going to be a blight on the committee's record forever.
Let's go to the phones. It's about you today. 855-212-4CBS. Roy is in Alabama. Roy, good morning.
Good morning. I have the privilege of listening to you guys every morning on the way to work, and I just want to say thank you for your show.
Oh, the privilege is ours. Thank you for letting us do the show for everybody. We have a blast here.
Oh, you're welcome. Perloff, brother, you couldn't be more wrong.
Yeah, I knew that was coming.
You guys put your feet on opposite feet. And I'm not saying this because Alabama got in. I am a diehard Crimson Tide fan. Had Alabama been left out and Georgia been in, that would have been okay with me because I knew Alabama wasn't going to get in because of the head-to-head with Texas. I knew Texas was going to go in before them.
Yep.
But tell me Florida State's best wins.
LSU, Clemson.
4 losses.
North Carolina. I don't know. Did they play North Carolina? I don't know. Yeah,
okay,
Duke.
And Louisville.
They limped. And they limped across the finish line with a 15th ranked Louisville. All right, I am so glad to see that the TCUs that get their butts whipped, the Notre Dames that get their butts whipped, are left out. I think that it's sad that the playoff committee finally got it right for the first time, since it's going to be the last time. And next year it's going to be the 12, 13, and 14 is going to be having this little squabble, right, which is ludicrous. But I just think that because I think 12 is too many.
Right. Hey, last year, I think your argument say last year Alabama should have been in too because they were clearly one of the top 4 teams last year with Bryce Young.
Oh, absolutely. And they would have been a 2 or 3 loss team if it hadn't been for Bryce Young. That's the difference. And I don't. I'm just happy that right now I think it's going to be Alabama's going to get another shot at Texas. So that's just my prediction.
That Alabama would upset Michigan in the Rose Bowl, and that Texas is going to be Washington. I mean, that would be a lot of fun.
Maggie.
Yes, Roy.
Maggie.
Yes.
Alabama beating Michigan's not an upset.
By seed, but Roy definitely diehard Roll Tide. It's interesting because the TCU thing, it's like we're relitigating that, and we could even relitigate Cincinnati or relitigate Notre Dame or whatever you want. But the thing is TCU gave us a great semifinal. The final was over before it started. Little did we know it was over in the first quarter, but we did get a great all-time semifinal.
Yeah, I mean,
does that not count?
I think it's really hard to go to precedent. I mean, who would have thought Ohio State would play Georgia down to the whistle last year too? It's very hard to predict these things.
How about Charlie's in Vancouver's got an interesting point. Hey, Charlie, how are you?
Hey, guys, really good. Perloff, let's go back to Cincinnati not being a number 1 seed in college basketball. I think they kind of retain the right to say what is right. You're right about it's what's on the field, but if you lose somebody, then it's not just what's on the field because you're not that same team anymore. And I agree that they are. It does set a bad precedent. The thing that would have sucked is if he didn't get hurt, I think they'd still be out. And then that would have really sucked.
That would be tough.
That would be hard.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hey, I have to disagree about the Big Ten being better than the Pac-12. I think we're going to look back on this and say, wow, the Pac-12 had some of the best quarterbacks as a group in maybe a long, like decades when we look back 5 years from now. I think J.J. McCarthy will not be a pro. I think he's a benefit of a great running attack, and It's easy to throw the ball when people are lined up to stop your offensive line. I think when he plays against really good teams, he's going to be – I mean, look at what Iowa did. Iowa's not a great team, and he looked pretty average most of that game, in my opinion.
But, Charlie, look at Washington's schedule. I mean, they barely beat Washington State. I mean, Michael Penix.
Throw that out. That's a rivalry game.
Well, but Utah, they beat
because Alabama barely beat Auburn.
They beat Utah and the Farmer quarterback. I mean, they've not been impressive since the Oregon win.
Kyle Whittingham is a great coach. They beat Oregon twice and on a neutral field.
They beat Arizona State. I'm looking at schedule 15-7. You telling me Michigan wouldn't thump Arizona State?
See, again, no. Oh, yes, they would, absolutely. But Washington doesn't care. Again, we shouldn't look back on what great teams are, winning by 40 points against mediocre teams and then looking bad against great teams. That's why this Caleb DeVore or whatever his name is at UW is such a great coach. Look at what UW was before he got there. Jimmy Lake had thrown them into the ground. They were terrible. This guy can really coach, and he knows how to win. And you don't have to win by 18, 20 points. You just have to win, and he games plans to win.
Yeah.
I think that's really, really important.
Charlie, it's interesting points all around. You bring up the Kenyon Martin thing, which was Martin obviously breaking his leg. One game into the Conference USA conference tournament, they still got a number 1 seed, but obviously didn't do anything in the tournament because of his injury. I get that.
Yep.
I would say on the flip side, though, like football, way more team game than basketball. Basketball, you have one guy you can take you really far because there's only 5 on the floor.
Yeah.
It's a little different. Now, I still think the committee got it right, but I don't think the Kenyon Martin thing is apples to oranges.
You know, also, Charlie brought up a good point. Kalen DeBoer, the Washington coach.
Phenomenal.
He's a bad man because Dan Lanning was the hottest coach in the country. I think he got out-coached on Friday night.
Definitely did. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Keep these calls coming, guys, because all these incredible points that some we've thought about, some we haven't thought about. So you're keeping us on our toes here this morning. I've got something that nobody is talking about when it comes to FSU. When I say nobody, I mean ESPN's not talking about it. Fox isn't talking about it. None of your favorite podcasts or whatever are talking about it. No one on radio is talking about it. And it would be a major, major shift.
Wow.
Yeah. Have not seen anyone say this yet except for me.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah.
Is it going to get them into the playoff?
No.
Oh, it's too late for that.
I'm sorry. I can't go back in time.
Does it involve lawyers and courtrooms?
Thankfully, no.
Thank
855-212-4CBS. 855-212-4227. See you guys. More reaction to the college football playoff. Do not move.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. 30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
She can run the 40 faster than Tom Brady. He got a perfect score on the Wonderlic. They are Maggie and Perloff on CBS Sports Radio.
College football fans really split on this one. Hey, welcome to the show, Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff. Should FSU be in the top 4 college football playoff teams? I say no.
I say yes. You have to put them there. They're undefeated. They did everything they possibly could, Maggie. They scheduled tough teams at the beginning of the year, at the end of the year. You know, just to have LSU and Florida on your schedule is an accomplishment. Who did Georgia have? Who did Michigan have? Nobody. So the fact that they got out there and beat them, and yes, they had their third-string quarterback to beat Louisville, but in a way that's impressive because they were at least upgrading to second string by the time the playoff would have been there. It's just going to seem so weird to have an undefeated Florida State team not there for the Final Four.
Well, I think the committee showed one thing. When it came down to an undefeated FSU or a one-loss Alabama team that had just beaten Georgia, they were going to reward the SEC over the ACC. And that is essentially what they did, along with looking at the actual, how Florida State's offense mustered 55 passing yards against Louisville. It just doesn't look the same.
If that's logic, then why not put in Florida State over Texas? They don't care about the Big 12.
Yeah, but I think Texas has been playing some of their best football late in the season, where Florida State is kind of like hanging on here behind with their injured quarterback. I think it is very different.
Well, yeah, basically Texas has a healthy quarterback, and Florida State's at their third-string quarterback. I'm not arguing that Florida State would be pretty to watch or even – I'm just saying they deserve to be there. I think when you call it a college football playoff, that implies that it is a real decided-on-the-field kind of thing, a playoff. It should be something else. It's like ice skating or gymnastics. Now it's a purely judge sport. No? Or don't you think judgment is playing way too big a factor? They're actually sitting there and watching football and saying, I think this team is better. That is a screwy thing to do.
It is screwy. I get it. And they haven't done this before, right? Because they put Cincinnati, and I guess with UCF, they didn't put UCF in, but that was
a little more drastic.
And and maybe they would redo that. I have no idea. But they didn't care about making it look, they being the committee, did not care that it looks like a judged event this year because this is the last year it's going to be 4 teams. And they do not care about dangerous precedents, breaking precedent. None of that matters now because we're going to 12 teams next year. We're never going to have this type of debate ever again.
Right. Well, they've never had consistency from year to year. They do change members a lot. So that does make sense. But they don't. What precedent? They rank a team in number 1 the week before the final decision, then just randomly change it. This committee has no logic to it. Never has.
I'll get to the one thing that could have changed FSU's fortunes in just one moment. But today is about you, and that is your phone calls, your tweets, you getting in on the chat, youtube.com/CBS Sports Radio, twitch.tv/CBS Sports Radio, because we want to hear from you. Scott's in Birmingham, Alabama's up next on CBS Sports Radio. Good morning, Scott.
Good morning. How you doing?
Fantastic.
I love your show. Doing a good job.
Thank you.
Hey, I've got a couple of points about this thing. Alabama didn't have to play Texas, and it seems like if we would have got left out, even though we lost a game, we would have been kind of getting penalized for that. We could have played Southern Illinois or somebody like that, and went through the SEC. I don't think the average fan understands how hard it is to go through the SEC undefeated.
Yep.
Another point, Roy Kramer, I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he was the SEC commissioner, and he basically started this concept years ago. And if you like it, don't like it, or whatever, this is about money, ratings, nobody wants to see a lopsided blowout. It would have been a stomping. I mean, they did Florida State a favor by not letting them in the playoffs. They would have got stomped. And if you're football fans, the Florida State game in Louisville the other night was a very, very hard game to watch. It was terrible.
Yeah. So was Michigan, Iowa, quite frankly. I mean, there was a couple that were tough to watch. It's funny, Scott, did they do them a favor, right? And I would say any diehard FSU fan is going to say absolutely not, and you never know what could have happened on the field. But Florida State now not only forever has this, which is you don't know, we got snubbed, we should have the rightful shot to play for a national title, but also they're out of the ACC at this point. If this isn't the evidence that you need that they have to get out of this conference. And the irony is that the head of the College Football Playoff Committee, Boo Corrigan, is the athletic director at NC State, and this could start a domino effect that eventually unstabilizes the ACC.
I will say this, though. If they want to get out of the ACC, they better lawyer up, because that contract they signed is basically in blood.
Oh, get out of here. It's college football. There's no contract that means anything.
They were trying to get money, allegedly, from the Saudis to get out of this contract. I mean, the fact that you have Miami, Clemson, and Florida State have been basically piercing through with so many lawyers to get out of the ACC contract, and it is ironclad. They're going to try, but it's going to be very difficult.
Two more really quick points.
Yeah, go ahead.
One is that the SEC was not going to be left out. I mean, Roy Kramer started this thing.
Yep.
They rub elbows. I mean, we know that. I mean, I'm an Alabama fan, but I'm a realistic type person. I mean, the SEC was not going to get left out. And one more thing, if y'all want to see bad football, wait till next year when there's 12 teams and you're watching lopsided football, and then people are bitching about the games are no good. Y'all have a great day.
No, Scott, listen, that 12 to me felt a little too much, right? This is the pure money grab with 12. 8 maybe it still would have felt very elite with 8. 12 feels just good.
I hear you, but are we sure they're blowouts? Listen, Alabama got super lucky to beat Auburn.
That's true.
And Auburn's not
rivalry game.
They're not a top. Yeah, but a Final Four game
on the road.
They got super lucky to beat Arkansas, who's the worst SEC team in years. So I don't know that we can predict. I think there will be some upsets. By the way, people are saying this. They're not going to watch the Final 12. Get out of here. It's going to be monster ratings.
I think it's going to be massive. Okay, on my call screener, this says Oregon and Oregon. I want to take that call, but I am assuming this person's name is not Oregon. But that'd be a cool name. So while I do that, I'm going to go to Ryan in Houston. Good morning, Ryan. How are you?
Hey, good morning. Thank you for taking my call.
Sure thing.
Yeah, I think that there's a couple points I want to make this morning. First is that, if you didn't want FSU to be in there, you kind of had them ranked all year long as being one of the top teams. I really felt like it was theirs to lose. I mean, I get the schedule and everything. I guess another point would be, if you think back to the first ever college football playoff, and you want to compare Florida State to a third-string quarterback, Ohio State, with a one loss, got into the playoffs and won the whole thing with a third-string quarterback.
Yep.
So you upset Alabama, and then you go on to beat Oregon in the national championship. You kind of got to let the game play out. It's kind of hard to say that what could happen without the game even being played.
Okay, so Ryan, it's great points. I've been seeing a lot of this with Cardell Jones and going back to Ohio State and how improbable that felt that a third-string quarterback could win the national title. Let's not forget how different this looked with Cardell Jones. And the score of the Big Ten title game with him was 59-0 that they beat Wisconsin.
Yeah.
It was different than what we just saw with Florida State basically hanging on to beat Louisville. What was the final score, 16-6 or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with that. And Ohio State was a different team. That was Urban at his peak, as I recall.
Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah, they were loaded. Florida State's probably a little below this. But Florida State did win by double digits. And that was a 1-point spread. Vegas was wrong about that game.
Totally.
They've been wrong about Florida State. I do think Florida State could get the game into a phone booth and make it interesting. I don't think that they were guaranteed to be a blowout like everyone's saying.
No, I don't think it would be guaranteed to be a blowout. Like that to me is not the point.
Yeah, I mean, look at the Michigan. We don't really know about these teams in the forward. Alabama is probably the most talented team, ironically.
Listen, it's college football. Like literally anything can happen. Yeah. That to me, it's not like you try to play God on how these games are going to go. That's never going to happen. I think it's looking at, are they one of the best 4 teams? And I do think it does matter that the coaches on the committee, the former coaches, said we'd be licking our chops to play FSU. And I think that is ultimately what pushed this. And you're not leaving out the SEC. So that all of it's in the stew.
And these coaches on the committee, they're currently coaching 11 and 2 teams, and they're just the masters of the universe.
No, but they can't be
There's
current
a bunch
coaches.
of
They'd be biased.
How dare you
guys.
disrespect Jim Grobe like that?
I saw that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, that committee is a joke. And I can't believe you guys are taking it seriously. You can argue for Alabama to be in, but don't defend the committee. I will not stand for that.
There's a couple other notable examples of college football playoff where the quarterback who started the year was not the quarterback that was playing for the national championship or playing for the Final Four. So you had the Cardell Jones was the famous example. The Tua Jalen Hurts situation. Yeah. The Trevor Lawrence was not the starter when he won as a freshman, and Stetson Bennett was not the starter for the second one.
So
for the first one.
So that's 4 out of 10 years or 9 years. So that's half the time.
But I think the major difference, though, is especially the Cardell Jones example, but I think they apply to all of them, is that all of those teams, especially Ohio State, looked so much more dynamic with those newer quarterbacks than FSU did. I mean, FSU's offense clearly took a step back without Jordan Travis. It wasn't like they were this great offense anyway, and they took a major step back. I mean, Cardell Jones, they went and scored 59 points against an 11th ranked Wisconsin team in a Big Ten championship game. So
it was different. It looked very different.
Totally different situation.
But I do think Rodemaker would have looked a lot better. He was clear. They really downgraded from 2 to 3, and the 2 was coming back. So whatever you saw against Louisville. By the way, Louisville was not a bad team this year. They were really good, and they got completely shut down by that defense.
Yeah, I think that Louisville losing late in the season for the second loss, I think that took it down a peg, because what were they ranked? 15? Now, again, a win against the top 15 team is a good thing, but Louisville didn't look strong at the end of the year.
I almost wonder if Louisville wins that game against Kentucky.
Yeah.
I think FSU gets in.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, first of all.
And that's a rivalry game. Remember, Big Dave called in. He said, don't sleep on Louisville, Kentucky as a football rivalry. This is actually a big deal. And we kind of said, you're a basketball school.
I mean, talking about what ifs. I mean, the Auburn, Alabama is the biggest what if to me.
Of course.
If a guy can just catch a punt, then none of this is even being talked about, not to even mention the final play.
Yeah, the 4th and 31. Just somebody rushed the passer. Gary is in Oregon. Gary, good morning.
Good morning, Maggie. How you guys doing today?
We're doing great.
So I have a couple things. I do feel like the committee was right leaving Florida State out. But, if we're going to think about, Florida State undefeated, should Liberty be in that conversation as well then, since they're undefeated?
Right, because Liberty killed LSU. I forgot about that game. And Liberty beat Florida, and Liberty...
No, but I'm just saying, we're talking about undefeated teams.
Yeah, I know.
Give Liberty that conversation, but they would have got smoked in the playoffs anyway. And then everyone's talking about, does Washington deserve being number 1? Washington hanged on, and I feel like Oregon shot themselves in the foot both of those games.
Definitely the first game. The first game, Oregon shot themselves in the foot. I mean, they missed a field goal.
They started off slow in that second game.
Yeah, the second game, I mean, just because they had to come from behind, it didn't feel like a shoot yourself in the foot game, because Washington should have put them away.
And then that defense just never stepped up after that, and it was just Michael Penix being Michael Penix Jr.
I know. And probably something we haven't talked about. Gary, thank you for the call. Probably won the Heisman?
Yeah,
on Friday night?
I think it's going to be a close vote. I think it's going to be really close, because coming into last weekend, it was Nix 1, Jaden Daniels 2, Penix 3, odds-wise. Penix was a distant 3. And now I think people still vote for Jaden Daniels.
Interesting that maybe he wins it if Nix and Penix kind of offset. But here's the thing
I think
why
Penix wins,
should
but
win
it's close.
He threw that bad interception. It's like, maybe he lost the Heisman. Then Bo Nix throws a bad interception, 2 plays later, and you had Michael Penix with the ball in his hand to go win the game, and he did it.
Yeah, I also think, too, that Jaden Daniels is a one-man team where Penix, I mean, you saw 3 guys following Rome Odunze everywhere. He's like the Marvin Harrison of that team.
But what was the last time? Was it Johnny Manziel? The last time was a 3-loss team had the Heisman winner?
Well, RG3, which one?
RG3.
Well, Manziel was actually more recent than RG3. So
it's rare, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, but it'll probably be. You're right. It'll probably be Penix, but it'll be close. I'll bet you Jaden is number 2, and then Nick still gets an invite. He was okay. He wasn't bad on Friday night by any means.
No, he wasn't bad. It was But at the same time, I think Penix did outshine. Like, he had the chance with the game on his arm, and he went and won it. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Love what you guys are saying. Excellent points being made all around, whether you're for, against, how you think this whole college football playoff shook out. Again, I'll bring up the one thing no one's talking about. I'm going to have to do that next. When it comes to FSU, one small twist, a little butterfly effect, one small twist, and they do everything they just did this season, and they're in. One small thing. We'll get to it. 855-212-4CBS. Keep the phone calls coming. It's Maggie and Perloff, CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. minute remaining. 45 seconds remaining. $30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
All right. Welcome back to Maggie and Perloff. Everyone just uncovered the real reason I'm advocating for Florida State to be in the Final Four. And I'm not going to lie to you about it. We have a bet where if Michigan wins a Final Four playoff game, then I do not have to wear a wrestling singlet. If Michigan loses their first game, then I have to wear it. So it's Maggie and EJ versus me. So that's why I wanted Florida State in the 4. I'll be totally honest. Now, Alabama...
Perloff does not want to wear the wrestling singlet. And the reason why it's a wrestling singlet is attached to this bet is because Michigan brought Ric Flair, the professional wrestler, in to give a talk when they turned heel, essentially, kind of embracing turning heel with the sign stealing scandal. So we're like, well, we can't really get a Ric Flair coat. They're thousands of dollars, but we can do a wrestling singlet.
Yeah, I'm going to call Jim Harbaugh. You gotta spy Jalen Milroe, and you cannot take the spy off of Jalen Milroe. Auburn learned this too late, and Georgia finally figured it out in the second half and was going to win the game. But you got it. Jalen Milroe's legs are what's going to beat Michigan. So I think this is going to be a great game. I think Michigan takes the air out of the ball. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be just as ugly as the Florida State play. There's no way there's any offense in this game.
Do we think that if Perloff was like, I need to get to Jim Harbaugh, I've got a strategy thing for him, could you get through to the head coach? I think you could. They don't have Connor Stallions anymore, so they're probably looking for help any angle they can get. I bet he'd take your phone call.
I think actually Michigan's got a pretty good coaching staff. Obviously Alabama does too. But I think this probably feels like the championship game. Michigan, Alabama, the two real blue bloods in this.
I think you guys are sleeping on Texas a little bit. And Washington has been disrespected this whole time.
Yeah.
Disrespected with the point spread against Oregon in the Pac-12 title game. Disrespected now. I think Texas also, they're playing really well.
I think either Michigan or Alabama is 7 or 8 point favorite over either Texas and Washington.
See, to me, I think the committee got it right by putting Alabama in, but I don't think this is a world beater Alabama team by any stretch.
Well, I know, but their offensive line is just, they got 2 top 5 picks on that offensive line, and then you saw it against Georgia. They were running the ball and just wore them down. But Michigan has the same thing. They're both big and strong. This, I'm telling you, people think that Florida State would have been an ugly game. You think Michigan-Alabama is going to be an exciting, throw it all over the yard game? No way.
But here's what it has. It has celebrities as head coaches.
Big time.
And this is where I think things could have been and would have been different for Florida State. If Deion Sanders was the head coach at FSU, do you think they leave an undefeated Florida State team out of the college football playoff? I'll answer it for everybody. Absolutely not. If it's the same season with the backup quarterback and then the third string quarterback and then beating Louisville that had 2 losses, play it out exactly the same, but it's not Mike Norvell, who is a fantastic coach and deserves all the credit in the world, but it's Deion Sanders. Guys, no shot in hell. They are 100% putting FSU into the top 4.
Yeah, I 1,000% agree with that.
It's amazing, right?
Well, yeah, but if you're doing real butterfly effect with Deion, Jordan Travis wouldn't be there if Deion was there. So you never know.
Yes, you'd have to go back.
I assume Jared Verse probably wouldn't be there. Keon Coleman wouldn't be there because Deion fired everybody when he got into Colorado.
Right. So would everyone have hit Keon Coleman was coming in as a transfer, right?
Yeah.
So it's yes. Everything would have to be different. Is Deion Sanders even capable of coaching a team to be undefeated? We have no idea. I don't think any of his Jackson State teams ever went undefeated, right? I don't believe so. No. So
they won a lot. Are you sure?
They won a lot, but EJ's telling me no.
Okay.
So is Deion even capable of doing this? That's a whole other story. I'm just talking about celebrity coach apparent, I think, would matter in this situation. I think it would have been the difference.
Agree with that. Yeah, I mean, you're right. It is a beauty pageant. And Deion is as beautiful as you get in college football.
And it's
also, but you're admitting there that TV ratings are a big factor.
I have the evidence in front of me that TV ratings are a big
that's
factor.
So ridiculous. Why are we determining this based on TV rankings? If that's the case, just put the most popular. That would, if you're going to do that for the NFL, that just means why did you have the Cowboys play the Chiefs in the Super Bowl then?
If Roger Goodell could somehow do that, he absolutely would. If he could somehow have the Cowboys play in every Super Bowl, he would do it.
Right, but they don't because integrity matters, unlike college football.
Yeah, well, I mean, the system's just a hair better in the NFL, but the referees are not any better. We'll get to that in a little bit. The referees were awful.
College football is a really model of consistency on the officiating front? No way.
No, they're bad in college football too, but the NFL was egregious last night. We'll get to that in just a minute, but Ken is in Pennsylvania, wants to talk about college football playoff and the rankings. Good morning, Ken.
Hey, good morning, guys. I got one for each of you. Maggie, you said a couple of minutes ago, it's what have you done for me lately in college every week to week, right?
Appears that way.
Yes. So I agree with that. So right now, the best four teams might not be the best four, but they're the best four probably out of the best 5 or 6.
Right.
Perloff, this is for you. If you take Michigan, Washington, Texas, and Alabama, and then throw in Georgia and Ohio State, and match Florida State up against those 6, who's Florida State going to be favored over?
No one.
I don't think any of them.
Yep.
No, I'm not disagreeing with that. I totally agree. Florida State is way down now with the backup quarterback.
Right, but even so, I mean, they're not. 3 weeks ago, they probably might have made it. They probably really got maybe that 4th spot.
Yeah, but
today, like Maggie said, what have you done for me lately? They're not one of the best 4 teams this week.
But Ken, if you're using that logic, do you think Texas would be favored against Ohio State? I think Ohio State would be a big favorite. Do you think if Oregon played Washington again, you think that Washington's favored in that game? They were just 9-point underdogs. They'd probably be 12-point underdogs. You can't go by.
The game I saw Saturday with Texas was one of the best games I've seen in years. Now, they might have been on the money with their pass routes and their running and their defense, but they looked unstoppable.
Yeah, but that's a shell of an Oklahoma State team. That you have that means
I agree.
nothing.
Oh, no, I agree. But I still think they'd be favored over Ohio State.
Oh, no way.
Texas.
No way. I'm going to put that out on Twitter. There is no way Texas would be favored over Ohio State.
I love how deep down the rabbit hole of hypotheticals we got when we actually have a real controversy just staring us right in the face. We don't have to manufacture one.
I think Michigan's going to be the first team out, though. I really do.
Well, that would be music to me and EJ's ears, Ken. Thank you so much, because as we said, the bet is thus, EJ and me versus Perloff. If Michigan wins, then EJ and I have to wear a wrestling singlet on the air. If Michigan loses, Andrew Perloff has to wear the wrestling singlet on the air. And Bogusch shakes his head.
What's the spread on this game? What do we got here?
By the way, the whole situation is banned, so we're not betting against the spread anymore because I'm not wearing another Patriots jersey or a Reggie Miller jersey or something else I hate.
You would want the spread on this one. What is Michigan, a 1 or 2 point favorite? Is that or is it moved?
We'll take a look at that while Andrew Bogusch
By the way,
gives us some headlines.
Thank God the game is on in Atlanta. That's giving me some hope here.
No, we are not going to ever do against the spread when it comes to pride bets ever again, because as was said in the chat, I'm sorry, I don't know who said it, but that somehow the universe got thrown off of its axis when I wore the Eagles gear.
Yeah. So Michigan's a 1.5 point favorite here. I feel okay. Go Jim Harbaugh, go Wolverines. I don't know what Alabama's signals are, but if I can help find them, I will.
Perloff in a hat and glasses looking incognito on the sideline. Andrew Bogusch is here. He's got headlines. Good morning.
Good morning again. These headlines sponsored by Northern Tool and Equipment. Get the tools you need from the brands you trust. Start solving your projects today at northerntool.com. We're made for this. It felt like a bad Sunday for the Eagles until we were told they were just tired yesterday, not inferior to the Niners. If they meet again in the postseason, Nick Sirianni will schedule more naps.
That's a really good football team, and you don't come out and play your best game against the guys that they have and the coaches that they have, it's going to look like that.
It's a 42-19 nightmare for his Eagles. Yesterday, the Niners scoring touchdowns on 6 consecutive possessions, 3 of them by Deebo Samuel. And maybe more importantly, the Birds may need to push as many tushes as possible while they can. The Athletic reported yesterday that Roger Goodell wants to ban the brotherly shove permanently.
Thank goodness.
The league could bring back the language preventing offensive players from pushing their teammates to gain yards. That rule was removed back in 2005.
By the way, I'm really confused by your last update, Bogusch. You were implying as if this was a regular season game, right? Like the Eagles season is not over because they lost that game.
No, it's not over. But if you were like to rank teams, so
you're
like 1 to 4,
and those points
put the
carry
Niners
over into
first.
the playoffs. Those points. So what does that really mean? What happened yesterday?
Well, what happened yesterday is San Francisco got one step closer, and Dallas also oddly may have gotten one step closer, but we'll see what happens next week to taking that number 1 overall seed. Or maybe Detroit gets the number 1 overall seed. And I think it does not matter if FSU, if San Francisco has to go on the road. I think it might matter for Philly. I think you want that home field.
It does matter for San Francisco because they're going to kill Philly in San Francisco because
I think San Francisco can beat Philadelphia in the playoffs either place.
Well, they could.
They just killed you
but I think
on the road.
The spread would be way closer. And they killed them, but listen, the Eagles were tired. The officiating went pro San Francisco yesterday.
Clearly.
There's no doubt about that.
Yes, and now we're going to
that'll flip backwards.
Right.
So that's how officiating works. And the Eagles, start out on fire. And I actually said to myself, I'm like, oh, Eagles, don't do this. You don't want to have to beat San Francisco twice in 1 year. So I was somewhat relieved that they dropped this.
The
game.
Eagles were playing well, and you were like, please drop some more passes.
Do you honestly think
turn the ball over?
Do you think anybody's
settle for field goals?
Do you think anyone's going to beat San Francisco twice in a year? That is a great team. This is not bad.
I think the one thing you're missing, Perloff, is that there was a lot of excitement, or at least a lot of thought from the San Francisco side that last year's loss was a fluke. So when we say, well, this is just a regular season, well, the 49er fans or the 49ers supporters say, well, last year you played us without a quarterback.
Yeah.
So
that was a fluke.
There was an idea that we didn't actually know how these two teams matched up before yesterday, and now we saw didn't look that good for Philly. And that's why a lot of the Niners supporters and Niners fans are excited.
But you have to admit, I mean, the Eagles' schedule, I know you guys are joking about me, but this is an impossible run they've gone through. They've had Dallas, Kansas City, Buffalo, and the Niners are all in a row. And to come out of that 3-1, they're still 10-2. They're still the number 1 seed. This is not a horrible situation. Did anyone think they were going to run this entire gauntlet?
Okay, but what do you think is going to happen next week in Dallas? You just said how hard it is to beat someone twice.
They could definitely lose. They're going to be 3-point dogs. They could definitely lose this game to Dallas. Hurts got concussed came back.
Why did he come back?
I have no idea.
He didn't get concussed.
He cleared concussion protocol.
Yeah,
sure.
okay. No, they could easily lose this game, but then they're at 10-3. I'm hoping I've played this out many times in my mind. The Niners face the Ravens. That's a really tough game. So the Niners fall to 4 losses, and the Cowboys will trip up. They'll lose to someone they shouldn't because it's the Cowboys. I mean, the Eagles are still probably going to be 14-3 on the season. That's not horrible.
No, it's not horrible, but it's almost like with Dallas. We'll say, oh, they'll be 12-5, and they're always 12-5, but they played the 49ers, and they got it handed to them.
Yeah.
And actually, I think most people believe that San Francisco would beat them again. And the way that Philadelphia looked against San Francisco, you'd be insane not to think that San Francisco would beat you again.
Yeah, no, San Francisco's great, but I've also watched San Francisco for the last 5 years. They're always an injury away. I mean, those guys are so physical. They always expose Purdy. They always expose Deebo. They always expose McCaffrey. I'm telling you, it'll be a different
Purdy
game.
Yesterday with 4 touchdown passes.
Well, Purdy ran through a tackle. I'm like, dude, what do you think? You're Cam Newton? I'm telling you, Purdy is way too physical. I think it's going to be a different NFC title game. Mark my words.
If the Eagles even get there.
Yeah, that's the other thing, too. The Cowboys
and
could
they're
easily...
not fatigued, by the way.
What's that?
Yeah.
And they're not fatigued. They have to be,
right.
They have to be at full strength. Because everyone in the playoffs is always full strength.
Well, you're crazy. I mean, they came off an overtime game on Sunday, and the Niners had a 10 days rest. You guys don't think that's a factor? In reality, come on. I know you guys are rooting as my team, but if you think that's not a factor, that's ridiculous.
It's their fault. They went to overtime. Like, I don't know how you can use that as an excuse.
Also, it wasn't like it was a short week or anything.
Right. Yeah, well, they played Sunday night, right?
No, Bills
Sunday
was
afternoon.
Sunday
well,
afternoon.
Okay,
same.
like that. Yeah, but but San Francisco had 10 days.
Yeah, no travel, as Bogusch said.
San Francisco had 10 days. And the Eagles, this has been a rough stretch. It was the hardest stretch in NFL history, according to the metrics. I mean, you guys understand. Nobody's going 16. No one's going 17-0.
Nobody wants that. No. The issue is we know the Eagles are better than the Cowboys. We don't need to have that question answered. Whether they're better than the Bills or the Chiefs doesn't matter right now either. We wanted to know who's better, them or the Niners. Right. And the Niners kicked their butt yesterday in Philadelphia. And even if they were tired, they probably just win by fewer points.
So it's 42-19. Do you think that's the same result in the NFC title game if two teams did play?
I do not think they would win again by 20 points. No, but
so, you got to admit, Hurts looked pretty good. He came back from the concussion and was slinging it all over the place.
That prevent defense will help you out.
Yeah, that was what was San Francisco doing at that point? They weren't bringing any kind of pressure, to EJ's point.
And they were chasing him around, and he was running around and throwing these miracle passes. But you think the Eagles also are banged up right now? Once they get some of those defensive players back, I'm telling you, say what you guys want. You guys always overestimate regular season wins at my point because the playoffs are so different.
Banged up. You had Lane Johnson back, who Perloff last night was like, and you see how he was handling Nick Bosa.
No, I said, did you see how he's holding Nick Bosa on every play?
Meanwhile.
Patrick Mahomes is 0 for 1 at Lambeau Field. His Chiefs losing to the Packers 27-19, falling a game behind the Dolphins and Ravens atop the AFC.
We made too many mistakes. They played had a good game plan, played a good game. Jordan played great. But at the end of the day, you make too many mistakes, and against a good football team, you lose.
Jordan Love, 3 touchdown passes in his team's 3rd straight win. The Packers now one of 4 6-6 teams at the bottom of the NFC playoff picture. They and the Vikings have wild card spots this morning. The Rams and Seahawks do not.
Man, did it feel like the Packers were trying to give that game away at the end, though? I mean, you give the ball to Mahomes like that with 2 shots, it was like...
They did try a pass play to get the first down. I mean, I think it was just felt like a train wreck coming at you. Like you saw Mahomes was going to get the ball back. I'm not sure. Could the Packers have done anything differently?
Scored a touchdown instead of settle for the field goal.
Well, yeah, of course they wanted to score. Settle for a field goal that they got super lucky to get. It was a 48-yarder.
I know, and the dude nailed it too, to his credit. But yeah, I mean, when they have to kick the field goal, the 48-yard field goal, and that made it 27-19. Right?
So you're saying a better strategy would have been to go up by 12 points instead of 8 points? Yeah.
Like I've seen Mahomes win that game 1,000 times. It was shocking that he didn't.
I'm sure the Packers wanted to score a touchdown there, Maggie, to put the game out of reach, but that's not so easy.
Well, that's why I felt like they were giving the game away because Jordan Love had played this really great game. Then it's 3rd and 6 at the Kansas City 20, and he takes a 10-yard sack. And it was and there's the mistake, and there's the young player showing his inexperience, and Mahomes is going to go down and make him pay. And to the Packers' credit, they held him.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. I'm like, oh, Jordan Love. How did you just ruin that great night?
The Titans and Colts played a weird game yesterday. Indy winning in overtime 31-28 on a Gardner Minshew TD pass to Michael Pittman. The Colts along the way blocked 2 punts, knocking Tennessee's Ryan Stonehouse out of the game on the second one. He's also their holder, so Nick Folk missed a go-ahead PAT late in the 4th off a bad hold by Ryan Tannehill. There was also Will Levis chewing out DeAndre Hopkins after an on-field miscommunication. I think the veteran wideout was okay with the rookie QB letting him have it.
That's going to happen. Whatever game this is, the Will's played, not that many. But he thought I was doing something, and I thought he was, wanted me to do something else. Love his passion, love the way he plays the game. I wouldn't tell him to be or do anything different.
So it ends kind of nice, but Maggie,
that's big of DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah, you laughed at the beginning. That's the headline to me. When he goes, what game Will has played? Not that many. I think that's he should probably shut up.
I'm an all-pro. Yeah, that game, if you like special teams, like this was the game for you.
That was a Rich Bisaccia special. I mean... Yeah, that was incredible.
But we need more games like this. We need to lose punters. We need to have we need more running backs kicking field goals for the Texans. I need more madness like that.
I'll tell you what, that punter got destroyed. Both of them. I mean, they were both just getting clocked left and right. It's like, this guy feels defenseless.
I felt it was a bad look for the special teams coach to let 2 punts get blocked. Once one gets blocked, you're on all hands on deck to make sure that doesn't happen again, right?
Yeah, it was just wild. And the fact that it actually ended up mattering to the point where as Bogusch said, Stonehouse couldn't be the holder, and then maybe that was a factor in the missed PATs.
And I've been waiting for a 2-point conversion to go the other way. That was awesome.
Oh, that was pretty cool.
Here's a juicy one for the transfer portal rumor mill, Perloff. Ohio State's Kyle McCord reportedly putting his name in said portal. Now, do you assume that means he knows the Buckeyes were going to get an improvement on him, so he's getting out?
Well, you throw that pick against Michigan, you got to leave.
Well, he's not good. There's an all-out. It seems like there's a war for the Kansas State quarterback, Will Howard. I saw Lincoln Riley was on a plane to see him, and I know Ryan Day wants to see him. This is good. If you're an Ohio State fan, the problem was the quarterback, right?
I think it's hard to rebound from like a bad moment in that game.
The whole season. I mean, you had Marvin Harrison and 5-star receivers all season long, and he's a Philly guy. I should like him. He cost him the entire season.
Manager Jim Leland's now a Hall of Famer, elected yesterday by the Contemporary Era Committee. Leland is 18th all-time in wins. Lou Piniella misses Cooperstown by just 1 vote in men's college hoops last night.
Sorry, really quickly about I didn't know you were doing Jim Leland. I love that every photo with him is him just roguing a bone.
As they should be.
Just heaters.
The second you said that, I'm like, wow, finally a coach who smokes cigarettes openly is in the Hall of Fame.
It's a good day for Marlboro.
It wasn't even so heavy for Marlboro, for Lucky Strike, also getting in the Hall of Fame. I think it's not just that. There's been plenty of guys who have smoked who are in. Obviously, there's like famous photos from the 70s where guys are smoking in the
Dave
dugout.
Parker. Don't even bring that up. Dave Parker, yeah.
But it was just how late into this that he was smoking. It was like 2009.
He was like, cup in his hand so you couldn't see it.
You could see it was like after cigarettes had gotten, sort of passe, they had already, banned dip. Yet Jim Leland was still here just with like a regular Marlboro.
And we need that on the plaque. If he's not cigarette in hand on his plaque.
I know. Forget Andre Dawson doesn't want to be a Montreal Expo in the Hall of Fame. We need Jim Leland with just a heater hanging off of his lip.
No steroid disclaimer for those guys, but we do need Leland with that cigarette just chilling in the corner of his mouth.
You're so right. Yeah. We should write a letter.
Oh. That's like putting Andy Reid's bus in and having a cheeseburger underneath it. This is not fair.
I'm also in favor of that. Andy Reid nuggies in his commercial. I'm like, who let you sign off on
that?
This?
Commercial is outrageous and hysterical.
I'm done. You don't need to know that Southern beat number 21 Mississippi State last night.
In what sport?
Exactly. We'll do that next update.
Basketball? Or?
No, with Leland, what hat is he going in with? That's a
Lucky Strike.
I would say Tigers. Right. I gotta be honest. The first thing that came to mind is Tigers. No.
Yeah.
Probably, but he won the ring with the Marlins, and he did rebound the Pirates.
Yeah, you're right.
See, but here's whose hat he should go in with. Whichever hat he wants to go in with. And
That's
this
true.
is EJ and I don't disagree. We disagree on this. Why should Andre Dawson have to wear the Montreal Expos hat? Why would Jim Leland have to wear a hat he doesn't want? Let the person pick.
No. But you'd always wear the last team.
Right. No, yeah, exactly. You're always going to pick the team that you had the best politics with, the team they had the best relationships with. And that's not what this is about. This is about who you had the best part of your career with. And to me, it would be a joke if you started giving the players and the managers options to say, I want to be represented by this team or that team. No, I think that those fans who root for those guys, even if the players have a bad relationship with the organization, they should be able to go to Cooperstown if you're an Expos fan, however many exist, and say, hey, that's our guy. He made it to the Hall of Fame. Him and Gary Carter, those are our Expos. Okay. I don't think it's fair Dawson could just say, I'm going to be a Cub, even though he only played 5 years there.
Okay, strong disagree, because I think that you play when you're playing or managing during that active time, it's for you and it's for the fans. When you individually get into the Hall of Fame, yes, it's validating for the fans to see someone in the Hall of Fame who they rooted for, but isn't that about you at that point? And that's okay. It can be about you. And if you have this horrible, say behind the scenes, it was this terrible relationship where you felt disrespected by the organization, and now you got to wear their hat in the Hall of Fame, the one moment when you get the individual recognition, that is so fugazi to me.
No, but I disagree, because the Hall of Fame is too often is forgot about the fan. We all fans of my era, millennial era, we see Barry Bonds, we see Roger Clemens, we see our quote unquote heroes who were the best players in baseball be left out. Like, no, it's about time finally Major League Baseball or the Hall of Fame or both actually think about the fan. And again, if you're a fan for some of these markets, how many guys that play for the Yankees, that played a cup of coffee with the Yankees would say, no, I want to go in as a Yankee, even though they were a great Pirate or they were a great Red? I think also you would be not looking out for a lot of these small markets.
Well, there could be some way where you go, okay, you're wrong on this suggestion, Andre Dawson, but when you're breaking a tie between two teams, it should come down to the guy who actually did it.
Well, the problem was when Boggs did it.
Right. So like that should be no, you can't be a Devil Ray.
Right.
But if you were like Gary Carter's another good example. If Gary Carter wanted to be a Met, he should be able to be a Met. He played for the Giants, I think, when he was in his last year. He can't wear a Giants hat, but he can pick between Mets and Expos because maybe his Mets years meant more to him than the Expos ones. No, I think that's fair.
No, if we're going to be judging these guys and putting them in the Hall of Fame without any judgment or the players' input, they're not making their case for the Hall of Fame. Why should they make their case for what hat they wear? We don't ask Gary Carter when to go in front of the committee or go in front of the voters and say, hey, this is why I'm a Hall of Famer. Now he should have a say and say, you know what, I want to be a Met. No, that's not what we're doing here. The committee and the Hall of Fame should have full autonomy in what hat you wear going into the Hall of Fame.
It's his plaque.
Right. And there's a whole paragraph saying who they played for and what they did everywhere. So the hat is not also the only factor of what's out there.
That is true. 855-212-4CBS. Okay, back to college football and the playoff. Did Florida State get snubbed by not making it into the top 4? We'll answer that question next. Don't move. Maggie and Perloff, CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break.
He was not happy about that.
Yeah.
Oh.
Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. "45 seconds remaining. "30 seconds remaining. "15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Maggie, great. Andrew Perloff. Major controversy swirling around the college football playoff. And what's interesting is FSU gets snubbed. And it was just how certain everyone seemed to be that they were not going to get snubbed, right? After they beat Louisville, even though it didn't look great, they won 16-6 or whatever, but it's like, there's no shot. The committee would never, ever leave out an undefeated team, a conference champion, and boom, it's exactly what they did.
I have to tell you what happened, though, and I was one of those. On Friday's show, I said there's no way they do it.
I said that, too.
There are a lot of people, but then after the Alabama game, I did notice the CJs. I was like, ooh, Alabama's getting in. After Alabama beat Georgia, it is, I hate to say it, it's a recency bias. Florida State did play the later game, but... yeah, I think it was hard to everybody watch that Alabama-Georgia game. We had a watch party that was great fun. I think once you watch that game, it would be really hard to keep Alabama out. I get it. I still think they made the wrong decision.
Highlights from the watch party forthcoming. George is in Los Angeles, has a thought on this. Good morning, George.
Hey, good morning, guys. Enjoy your show. The factor was the fact that Washington beat Oregon. Nobody expected that. Washington's undefeated, too, so they're not going to leave Washington out and put Florida State in. I'm sorry. Washington is a better team, in my opinion. And also, Washington is going to be very dangerous in the playoff. Watch out for them. And then just a quick comment about the Rams, if I can. I know they're not in the playoffs, but they're playing better and better every week. And I know they probably can't beat Baltimore, but Baltimore better be careful because this Ram team is starting to come on. Anyway, thanks a lot, guys. Bye.
George, thank you. George is the one Rams fan who we know, and I appreciate his consistency. They're now officially in the hunt, but what's the latest with Puka Nacua, who left the game yesterday?
He came back, didn't he?
Did he come back in the game?
I think he came back. I got to check.
I did not see that.
But I'm not positive about that. I mean, they are a one-receiver team. It doesn't matter if it's Cooper Kupp or it's Puka Nacua. They just seem to have these guys who are... I mean, Puka Nacua is a great NFL story this year. I feel like he's been overshadowed.
If it wasn't for C.J. Stroud, he would win the Offensive Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, and he'd be a great Offensive Rookie of the Year. He seems like the coolest guy. I can't get my head around this Rams team. There's so many teams in the NFL that are 6-6 or 7-5 that we have no idea, right? I mean, do you know, Maggie?
No, I have no clue. And week to week, never know. But when it comes to Washington, the undefeated Washington, I think that was also something that, was kind of hurting FSU. Like Washington winning, you had there was no, there wasn't enough of a mix, like a churn, if you will, to get FSU in as an undefeated. Like if Washington had lost a game, then they're out, and maybe we're talking about no Pac-12 team.
I know. Oregon, that would have been hard because Oregon had a lot of positive momentum coming in the game. They're playing great football. I think the committee...
But if you were putting resume up against resume, I think Oregon would have fell short.
Maybe, but that
against Alabama,
that comment
definitely.
about how Florida State would have Washington's a better team. Washington could win or lose to anybody. I think Washington can play down to their competition based on the fact they've had so many close games in the Pac-12. I mean, the Washington State game was great. Washington State's a disaster this year, and they probably should have lost.
Brent in Tennessee. Brent, you got 15 seconds, dude. How you doing?
Doing well, Maggie. Yourself?
Doing great. What's up?
Hey, I was thinking if Deion was the coach for Florida State, would they be in the playoffs?
That's what I said. They'd be in. Celebrity?
Yeah, it's all,
yes, sir.
I agree. Celebrity, all about the ratings. Hey, great show. Have a good day.
Brent, thanks so much. Appreciate you calling in. Coming up, we have more on the college football playoff. The one statistic that no one is talking about that justifies what the committee did. We'll get to that next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. $45 seconds remaining. $30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's the reigning Fortnite champion. She's a Call of Duty legend. They are Maggie and Perloff on CBS Sports Radio.
Well, the committee got it right. It wasn't pretty. You're heartbroken for FSU, but ultimately this was the right decision. Welcome to the show, Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff. Despite all the NFL from yesterday, including the Green Bay Packers pulling off an upset over the Kansas City Chiefs in Lambeau, this is still the number one story. Perloff, Florida State, despite going undefeated and winning the ACC, they get left out of the college football playoff. It's shocking, but that doesn't mean it's wrong. The committee is trying to find the 4 best teams in college football. They got as close as humanly possible with this decision.
It has to hurt you to say that, though, because you cannot. I know how you look at sports. You cannot believe that committee is a legitimate organization. That is a joke.
Listen,
just the pictures of them sitting there. Come on, why is a committee choosing this? Why as well get the Russian judges in here? This is not gymnastics, Maggie. This is football. You play it on the field. There's wins and losses. I don't know what this is.
Well, there's wins and losses, but that's not always the whole story.
Wait, since when? This isn't.
Since now.
Since when is judging how pretty a win or loss is a thing? It's not a thing in any other sport except for college football, and that is ridiculous.
It's always been a part of college football. What it looks like and how much you run up the score on someone. This is why we get 63-7 games earlier in the season and stuff like that, or even late. There are 2 things here why FSU got snubbed, and 2 things that are correct. Number one, they are a different team without their starting quarterback. And I understand that Cardell Jones won a national championship with Ohio State as a third-string quarterback. That Ohio State team is not this Florida State team. And that is with all due respect to the Florida State defense this year. They are phenomenal. But Cardell Jones was hanging 59 on Wisconsin that year in the Big Ten title game. That's not what we saw FSU winning 16-6 against a 2-loss Louisville team on Saturday night. Perloff, it's just different.
A 2-loss? Well, is that bad? Well, you make it sound, yeah, they're 9-2.
The other thing is, and we all know this is true, and I think most college football fans, even if you do not like what happened with Florida State, you would acknowledge this is true, which is an SEC team has to be in. I hate to sound like Nick Saban apologists or Kirby's, anyone who's lobbying Greg Sankey, whatever. SEC, even in a quote-unquote down year, is still the preeminent college football conference in this country.
Yeah.
To not have Alabama or Georgia in this top 4 would have made this feel even more fugazi.
Yeah, but I mean, what happened when the SEC went outside the conference this year? Alabama lost by 10 to Texas.
And Texas got in.
Yeah, I'm just saying. And then Florida State killed LSU. To me, that's a huge outcome. I mean, this was not the year for ACC beat the SEC this year. When does that ever happen? They beat them 6-4 head-to-head. That's crazy. This is not the normal SEC. And all these Georgia and Alabama wins. And Alabama could barely beat these bad SEC teams. And I like Alabama.
Listen, I think Georgia maybe had a point. Like, they lost by 3 to Alabama on a quote-unquote neutral field. I mean, you could have said, well, Georgia probably should have been in. There was no way that was going to happen with Alabama beating Georgia. That is a quality win. Alabama had the highest ranked strength of schedule this year, 4 ranked wins, including that win over Georgia. They were not getting left out.
Why do you think Georgia didn't make it in?
They didn't know what to do with Georgia once Alabama beat them. Because why is Georgia ranked 6th, like behind FSU?
Right, because you actually have to care what happens on the field. And it's deserved matters. What happened before matters, not who's the best team. Obviously, Georgia's one of the top 4 teams in the country. I don't think that's a hot take. And I don't even think Texas or Washington or Michigan would disagree with that. I mean, Michigan would. But, I mean, Texas has a loss. Washington has a lot of close. Georgia's awesome, but they're out because that's how it should work.
Let's hear from Mike Norvell, the head coach from Florida State, on just how disappointed he is in the decision by the committee.
You know, I was just hurt for our players. I mean, to be honest with you, that was, it was one of the tougher moments that I've had to experience. And, you know, just for all that they've done, you know, you talk to a team about, responding to adversity, getting up and going to give all that you can to be able to find a way to win a college football game. And, like Coach Mart said, it is hard. I mean, it's hard to do. It's hard to, especially when you face some of the adversities that we've had.
Yeah, your heart breaks for him. It really does. And unfortunately, there have been a lot of things about this system that are unfair, and this is another one. And I said before, I think if Deion Sanders is the head coach of Florida State, this is no disrespect to Norvell. He's a phenomenal coach. He's amazing. But if Deion Sanders was the head coach, they're probably getting in just on the celebrity of the head coach. Like, it's not fair, but I do think that the committee was tasked with getting the 4 best teams in college football, and I think they got damn close.
Well, you just said the celebrity would have gotten them in.
And because things aren't fair.
Okay.
Things are not fair.
I think Norvell, he also had this vicious tweet against the NCAA. The one thing that he said that I do agree with, he said, what is the motivation to schedule challenging non-conference games? Now, I understand you're going to 12, so it's easier to get in, but I still think after this, if you're a big-time school, there's no way you're putting hearts. So you're going to have a lot of crappy September and October games. This is not going to – I think the 12 will get big ratings, but I think college football just cemented themselves as a distant number 2 to NFL because of this. Because I think there's a lack of urgency because everyone knows the committee is going to do whatever they want to do.
Okay, but they're taking away the lack of urgency from the very few awesome early season games that we do get. Let's not pretend like we get all these incredible college football games in September and early October. For the most part, we get 1 or 2 really big matchups.
Yeah, because no one's going to schedule anybody because there's no incentive to.
Well, but what do you make up for it on the back end? On the back end, you make up for a single elimination tournament that is going to do gangbuster ratings, that is probably going to be rival anything we see in the NFL outside Cowboys, 49ers.
No, it will not. I mean, the NFL playoff games blow away the national title game in ratings. I think. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I do think also, like last year was with TCU, Georgia, that was not.
Well, the game was over.
This year it's probably going to be Alabama, Washington. That'll be big, but I'm not sure that this year is going to be the biggest rating ever for the title game.
I think it's going to be Alabama, Texas, by the way, just FYI.
Or Alabama, Texas. Yeah, Alabama, Texas would be good. But that being said, I just think that college football, you have this feeling until the end, it doesn't matter because the committee's going to do whatever they want. So what was the point of all those Florida State games? I mean, why play them? They should have just, Norvell's right, they should have just sat down everybody when the injury happened. Because what's the point?
Well, one question I have for you guys is something I posted on Twitter, and maybe it won't matter as much because we're going to a 12-team playoff, but I kind of wonder if this decision maybe is our gateway to load management in college football. I mean, Jordan Travis got injured in what was a quote-unquote bye game for Florida State. They brought in Northern Alabama, and, Jordan Travis, maybe he shouldn't have even been on the field, but he plays this game, he breaks his leg. How many teams, maybe it's not even Northern Alabama. Maybe if you're, LSU or you're Alabama, you're playing against Vanderbilt or you're playing against South Carolina. I mean, do you say, you know what, we don't need our quarterback to get hurt in this game, let's sit him out, and then if the game is close, we'll throw him back in there? Maybe with 12 teams, it won't be as much of a difference, but that was the one thing I thought. If we had 4 teams next year, if I was a head coach, I would not be playing my starters in any of these bye games or any of these games that maybe I know my second string can win.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for the most part, if you have these games that are the bye games where you're paying this other team to come in and get their butt kicked, for the most part, doesn't the backup kind of get in after halftime. Generally, they'll do like the first drive of the third quarter and then they're sit.
Right, but I mean, if you have injuries, injuries happen in any game. So, like, I think Alabama knows they're going to beat Vanderbilt by 40 points. Georgia knows they're going to beat South Carolina by 20 points. Like, those are conference games. Like, I would be even more aggressive. I'd say, look, conference games against teams that are not that great, I'm just going to play my second string. And again, does that kind of then bring in load management to college football?
Well, EJ, one thing, what about the Heisman? And I know it's an individual award, but it is important for marketing of a program.
Definitely.
I think LSU would love if Jaden Daniels won the Heisman. So, I mean, that's where the Heisman guys make their lunch right there.
The fallout from what happened here could be a lot of things. Well, it's not the precedent for leaving out an undefeated team. That's never going to matter again, because when you go to 12, of course, every undefeated team is going to get it, right? Like, even the Liberties and all, everyone who's undefeated is going to get in because there's going to be room for all of that.
Yeah.
The other fallout, though, is like, and I know this has been kind of on track for a while, but if the ACC was going to try to hang on here as a conference when all these conferences, we just saw the Pac-12, poof, just go goodbye in a course of a couple months. I know it would take a lot of lawyers, but how does Florida State, they have to be looking for every exit ramp to get out of the ACC, because being in the ACC is one of the factors that kept them out of this top four.
Yeah, I mean, okay, say the ACC goes away, the Pac-12 is gone. So you have 3 conferences, and the Big 12 is clearly inferior to the other 2. Why don't you just go to a 60-power team setup and then have a real schedule so we have all these teams playing each other in September and October? Would that be amazing?
Well, then that's the NFL, is what you're describing.
Well, why not?
That's just a bigger NFL.
You're a minor league for the NFL. Why not do it that way?
I think a lot has to get ironed out before we eventually do get to that, which is, again, this is a television product. And I hate to say that because it's not that FSU is a bad story, and it's not that FSU doesn't have a big fan base. I mean, FSU is also one of the glamour programs who has, have this long, rich history in college football. And the committee said, no, thank you.
Yeah, that's why this is so compelling, because it was Florida State they left out. They didn't leave out Baylor or TCU, which are the teams that got passed over. Or was it Kansas State who got passed over by TCU Ohio State back in the day? So, it's crazy that Florida State's not there. That's why I think this is probably the guys on the committee did not have an easy job, because they knew they were going to make somebody very powerful very angry.
I love this in the chat. YouTube.com/CBS Sports Radio, Twitch.tv/CBS Sports Radio. Of course, our incredible CBS Sports Radio affiliates who we say good morning to, who we adore. You can also find us on the absolutely free Odyssey app, Sirius XM channel 158. This is good, though. Cigar City Capo says style points should be an official stat.
Yeah.
I kind of love that. I mean, I'm sure.
No, it's terrible. It's anti-competitive.
No, but at least, you get to separate the style points from the, what's tack on and what,
Oh, what should be?
Like,
but style
clutch. It's like the opposite of clutch scoring.
When I hear style, you're right. Style points are 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter when you're up by a lot. And those are meaningless in my mind, but they actually do end up really counting. So I just
sift it out.
Sift it out. That's a good point. By the way, 12 would be amazing this year. This year would be, because you had so many elite programs doing well. I mean, guess who was 13? LSU. Can you imagine? You don't think Jaden Daniels, that would have been controversial? I think he was still going to have controversy. And Ohio State, Oregon, Georgia, 3 teams that were left out, they could beat any of those teams in the Final Four. So it would have been a great games. 12. They should have gotten a 12 in this year, and we wouldn't be talking about this today, which would be bad.
Pete, can we hear from Boo Corrigan, please, the chairman of the committee, justifying why they put Alabama ahead of FSU?
Florida State is a different team than they were through the first 11 weeks. Coach Norvell, their players, their fans, an incredible season. But as you look at who they are as a team right now, without Jordan Travis, without the offensive dynamic that he brings to it, they are a different team. And the committee voted Alabama 4 and Florida State 5.
Sorry, my big question, why is his voice hoarse? Like, was there all this yelling going on? Why does it sound like he's like Doc Rivers?
I mean, Perloff was calling them clowns, but it sounds like they were really getting after it when it came to this discussion.
Yeah, apparently. Sounds worn out. Also, he sounded a little nervous, like,
Yeah, I mean, he's the NC State AD, and he just kicked Florida State out of the Final Four. And also, he's like if there is ever somebody from the good old boys network, his dad was the head of the ACC. He's a lifetimer here, and it feels like I can't believe that you are not more against the committee. These college administrators in general are the worst, but college football administrators are even worse of the worst. I don't know why they could decide anything.
855-2124-CBS. Our pal Big Dave's in Kentucky. Dave, good morning.
Good morning, McLovin. I got a question.
Hit me.
How could you go? Who did you just say you thought would be in the championship game?
What do you mean? Oh, Alabama.
Did you not just say Alabama? You thought it would be Alabama and Washington?
Yeah. No. Actually, I didn't really think. I think Alabama has a great chance to go to the title game.
You said that's exactly what you said, meaning that you think Alabama's going to beat Michigan, the number 1 seed.
Right.
Well, then how can you say they shouldn't be in?
Well, because deserve matters, then Georgia would kill Washington or Texas. So you say Georgia? Wait, Dave, do you think Georgia would beat Washington or Texas?
It's an imperfect world. There's no way. Your own logic, you just quasi, without even realizing, justified their decision.
No, Dave, I'm not saying that Florida State. I didn't say Florida State would have given anybody a good game in this tournament. I don't believe they would. I think Florida State's clearly not one of the top 4 best teams right now. I don't care. They're still an undefeated conference champion. They deserve to be in there.
Oh, my God. That's the most consolation prize theory I've ever heard.
Well, so if the last play of the game, if Jalen Milroe had hurt his hamstring and he wasn't available for Alabama and they'd won that game, that means you take them out? I just think that the games are played on the field, Dave.
Okay, what about strength of schedule? What is Florida State's strength of schedule? What's the ranking?
55.
Everybody wants to talk about how, okay, Alabama's 1 loss, so they'll beat Auburn in the last minute with the last-minute play. That's not the only thing, and the 0 losses is not the only thing that takes into account. Strength of schedule is huge.
But does strength of schedule include the loss to Texas?
Huge.
Does that include the loss to Texas? Look at it.
Yeah, in week 2.
Wait, I'm just saying, really. Okay, so Alabama beat Ole Miss, and they beat these. I think the whole SEC was down this year. And even your Kentucky team, they fell apart as well.
Here's the thing. I'm going to leave you with this. Okay, if you watch the ACC championship game, which I did begrudgingly the other night, the team that just lost to Kentucky, Florida State couldn't put them away. It was like a rock fight. Come on, man. I understand. I understand the concept. I understand your theory. But you know in the end, McLovin, that it's the right choice. Love you guys.
Okay, Dave, thank you so much. And I agree. And you're looking at who Alabama beat. Yes, they lost to Texas. We know that at home. And that's why Texas is above them. But they did beat Mississippi State. They beat Tennessee.
Mississippi State. Who cares?
I'm talking about ranked teams. They beat LSU.
You mean Ole Miss?
Ole Miss, pardon me. I'm sorry. Mississippi State, they also won. Of course. And I think the Georgia win went a really far way. Obviously it did, because Georgia gets bumped down to 6 because they lost this, and Alabama's sitting there at 4. They were not leaving out an SEC team.
Honestly, though, but Alabama had 2 games this year, Auburn and Arkansas, that you really have to look at and say, oh, my God, this is not the Alabama team we've known for the last 10 years. Arkansas is they were awful this year. And they
came back and beat them in the fourth quarter.
They came back and beat them 24-21. You don't think we use that against Florida State?
Well, listen, I'm looking at 55 passing yards from Florida State against Louisville.
Yeah, but that was
2.6 passing yards per play.
I totally understand. No, but by that logic, honestly, I think you could argue that Ohio State and Georgia also belong in this, because we know they're really good teams as well. Why isn't Georgia there?
Georgia is the one thing they did not know what to do with Georgia. There was no place for them once Alabama beat them. Right, clearly, there's not, because they're out. But you couldn't take out Texas. Because,
why not?
Well, I think because Texas has the quality win over Alabama, and they won the Big 12 title game in impressive fashion. They lost to Oklahoma.
I thought that was early in the season.
But they lost to Oklahoma by a point, was it, on a neutral field?
Well, yeah, and what was the Florida State loss? There was none.
Okay, but what are the Florida State wins? What are the wins the LSU win? I'll give that to you. It's super impressive. And then what?
Well, they beat how many ranked teams did they beat? 5?
Was it 5? I don't think so.
Well, teams that were ranked at the time. Okay, they beat LSU was number 5 in the country. They beat them. Duke was 16 and they killed them. Louisville was 14. So the Clemson was not ranked, but Clemson actually turned out to be a pretty good team.
Clemson was about to begin a tailspin going into that.
Yeah, they were bad at this point.
Yeah, that was that, and that took them to 2-2. So that was maybe not.
Yeah, but Clemson came back and played much better later in the season.
Right, but isn't it about also who you got, like when you got them?
So if that's the case, then LSU was number 5 in the country when they got them.
It was week 1. I mean, I don't like to me like
Duke
that's a fraud.
Duke was 16 when they got them.
Well, right, but I think the LSU, because we said the LSU win. I know Maggie said super impressive. I mean, was it? I mean, that is a 3-loss team, and okay, they beat the quote unquote number 5 team. You talk about teams being crowned. They were crowned by the media. For
LSU
no reason.
was hammering Alabama until
they were
not.
That team. They were not.
But they were running like
wild.
Jaden Daniels was setting record. At least they were hammering the defense. You have to admit that was not the best.
Right, but it's a two-sided game, Perloff. You can't say they were hammering them in a 1-score game. That's ridiculous.
Well, it's not like I mean, listen, until Jaden Daniels got hurt, LSU definitely looked way better against Alabama in Tuscaloosa than they did against Florida State.
But I don't think it's fair when we talk about Jordan Travis and Florida State being a different team. And you say, well, that's a hypothetical. You can say, well, if Jaden Daniels was healthy, they would have won. When that's a hypothetical, we have no idea. It was a close game.
Yeah, that's what happens when you are dealing with this beauty pageant. It's all hypotheticals. Why don't we actually have a real playoff where we play this out on the field? I'd rather go 64 teams. I'd rather go 68 like the NCAA tournament and actually play on the field instead of having this weird committee.
Don't worry.
Would start week 1 if we had to do a 64 team.
Guys,
playoff.
don't worry. We're going to get there. Just give them a little time. Give the networks a little bit more money. We're all going to get there. We have poll results, EJ.
Yes, we do. So we asked the question, pretty simple. Who should have been the last team in the college football playoff? Should it have been Florida State or should it have been Alabama? Right now we have 39% saying Alabama, a little more than 60% saying Florida State.
I think that Florida State definitely has the public, by showing this poll, the public's behind them. I think the public feels really bad for a team that is undefeated. You had the heartbreaking, images of the cameras, the ESPN cameras in the room when they get this awful news.
Yeah.
And even if the players are making money now because of NIL, it still feels, it's still, you'd be heartless not to think that, this is a tough moment for them.
No, it is tough. But listen, Alabama's in great shape. They could probably afford to lose by anything less than a touchdown and be named national champion in the final game. Isn't that where we're at right now? Does the committee reconvene after the final buzzer and say, we think this team had a better strength of schedule. Let's give them that glass egg.
Perloff.
Give me a break. This is all so idiotic.
Perloff, how many wins does Florida State have if Jordan Travis plays no games this year? Can you give them more than 8?
With that defense, they could beat a lot of teams. I mean, honestly, their schedule was pretty bad, EJ.
They almost lost to Miami with Jordan Travis. They barely survived a bad Florida. We keep talking about this Florida win. Give me a break. That team is garbage. They barely survived Florida with Taylor, whatever his name, Rodemaker.
Tate Rodemaker. They won by 9 points.
Right.
But and they won on Saturday by 10 points. That's double digits.
Right. 16.6 wins.
I'm not arguing Florida State is good right now. It didn't
feel like double digits.
But you have to be honest. It's not being decided on the field. There's just no way you could say when an undefeated Power 5 team is sitting out there that this year's Final Four was decided on the field. It's just not the case.
But it's never decided on the field, is my point. Is that every year we're making these cases of, why wasn't UCF in? Why wasn't TCU in the one year where they weren't allowed in, even though they had beat Baylor?
Do those two cases, does the UCF case seem exactly the same as the Florida State case? If you think that, then we're just on completely different pages.
It's not the exact same, but it's a lot closer than the Carlo Jones conversation or some of these other conversations.
No.
Carlo Jones, they put up 59 points against Wisconsin in the big.
He threw 3 touchdowns.
Right. So you're saying this Florida State Seminoles who won the ACC is the same as UCF?
They're closer to UCF than they are to that Ohio State team, 100%.
That's an indictment on the ACC. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227.
And an indictment on the SEC, who obviously Florida State was 2-0 against. So basically you're saying UCF and Florida State. Put that out there on Twitter and see if Florida State fans agree with that.
Florida is horrendous.
Florida was a bottom feeder.
To keep bringing up that win.
No, but I'm just saying, to call that UCF team and this Florida State thing the same thing, that's tough.
UCF
that is not going to go over well.
50 points a game. By the way, you want to talk about competing against SEC teams? They then also went up against the LSU team that, by the way, the next year won the national championship and competed down the stretch in the bowl game. So Florida State, you're talking about big wins and who they played. We saw UCF the following year compete against the best.
I know. The one thing that's a problem with the bowl games is guys don't play in the bowl games as much as they used to. And that's what stinks about FSU now playing Georgia in a bowl game. You could say, oh, well, this could be, co-national champions. Let's see what happens between FSU and Georgia. But not everyone's going to play, because if you're going to the NFL and you're going to be a high pick, why would you play in this game? 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Major controversy last night between the Chiefs and the Packers. We've got that, but we want your phone calls on the college football playoff. Should FSU have been in the top 4? 855-212-4227. Don't move.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. 30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Football preview is sponsored by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. The Jags host the reeling Bengals tonight. It's the first time Jacksonville has been on the Monday night stage since December of 2011. Is that right? Trevor Lawrence, because they play so many Thursday night games. Trevor Lawrence and company have won 2 in a row, while Cincy is reeling, losers of 3 straight. FanDuel has the Jags as a 9.5-point favorite. Man, I was arguing all my arguments for the NFL versus college football are going to kind of fall apart tonight because this is a crap product they're putting out.
Give me like Washington and Texas 1,000 times before I have to watch Jacksonville and Cincinnati.
Oh, by the way, Washington and Texas is going to be the best game. I'm thrilled for that game.
I want Michigan, Alabama too. Like, we can argue about whether or not Florida State should have gotten in. That's one argument, totally valid on both sides, in my opinion. The fact is, like, these are setting up to be 2 really awesome games.
No, that's true.
You never know.
But then again, the Final Four is usually a very unpredictable time. We've had some terrible blowouts. Last year, by the way, the fact that Michigan lost to TCU and Ohio State almost beat Georgia was the most surprising because Ohio State looked awful against Michigan, so maybe it'll be a flip-flop.
From like one of the most interesting topics, the college football playoff, to one of the least interesting, just want to tell you, I think the AFC South is getting 3 teams in the playoffs. I don't know how, but between Jacksonville, Houston, who's like the darlings now of the league, and the Colts keep winning, guys. I don't know what's going on.
They're playing other AFC South teams.
Gardner Minshew, I'm not sure. Like, blocking, I don't know.
I think
special teams.
I mean, we're all foolishly saying the Bills have a chance now. 6-6.
No, you guys are doing this thing to me where you're trying to get me to buy back in just so that my hopes and dreams get crushed. Like, too late. I already crushed my own hopes and dreams just by virtue of being a Bills fan.
I also don't understand how the Chargers are not a playoff team in this conference right now.
Because they're the Chargers?
How bad was that game yesterday? Where's the bottom for Belichick?
Not here yet, apparently.
I think now it's turned where it's like, okay, now you can get your sights on the number 1 overall pick. It's kind of like the kick save and a beauty on a bad season. It's like, oh, we could be so bad, we'll get Caleb Williams.
I like that.
But boy, was that a rough game. Bailey Zappi.
The Zappi, they didn't let him throw the ball more than once. How many passes did he have in the first half?
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think people really need to learn this lesson as much as you think coaches are dopes, whether it's the Jets and Zach Wilson or Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi. We always think the other guy is better, but 9 times out of 10, the other guy sucks.
Wait,
and
did you guys watch
not
that game?
Playable.
Zappi did nothing.
He can't.
They never let him pass the ball.
Zappi, first of all, he can't.
No, I think yesterday they're like, we're going to hand the ball off every play and not let Zappi do anything. So how do you know what he was?
This is a very Andrew Perloff argument here, but it was a driving rain.
Yeah, I know.
2 fan bases and just fans yesterday that deserve medals, or 3. Whoever stuck around for that Patriots game. Like, why? You watched 6 Super Bowls. Go home.
Yeah, no, you shouldn't have gone in the first place. I got nothing for Patriots fans.
The Jets and Falcons, like,
Same
again,
thing.
Why would you even attend that game? And then for the Pittsburgh Steelers fans who had to sit through 2 weather delays yesterday to watch your team not only end up getting their ass kicked by the Arizona Cardinals, you lose your quarterback, and TJ Watt had to leave the game for a certain amount of time.
That was bad. It was good until Pickett got hurt. Then it got bad. But those
fan bases deserve free tickets to another game at another time.
Can we do something about
the team that they root for?
Yeah, in another city.
Let them see a good game.
Yeah, like send them to like what is it where Real Madrid plays Barcelona? Like, send them to that.
El Clasico.
The Clasico.
What are we gonna do with Atlanta or New Orleans getting in the playoffs? I mean, that has to be the worst playoff.
That's where you need a committee.
Yeah.
You want a committee? Get those teams out of there.
Exactly. That's what we need, the committee. Thank you, Pete. I mean, is Derek Carr, when they said that he left the game, it was like 4 varieties of injury. It was like, it's his head, it's his shoulder, it's his back, he's in a full body cast.
From his nipples up, he's injured, basically.
The nipples are the worst.
If you're the Cowboys, which team would you want to see the most, I guess? Or
Doesn't matter.
The least. Doesn't matter.
If you're the 2 seed and you get the 7. Oh, no, 4 or 5.
You're the first wild card and you got this NFC South situation. Falcons, Saints.
Just send Cooper Rush. Like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't want to play in the Superdome for whatever reason. Like, I'm not afraid of Mercedes-Benz or really either one of them, wherever it's called in Atlanta. But at least the Superdome has some cachet.
No, I think it's called the Mercedes-Benz Superdome.
Yes,
you're confusing the crap out of everybody.
But isn't it also
you're right.
There's a Caesars Superdome.
Caesars Superdome.
And the Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
In Atlanta.
I should know better than to challenge Bogusch.
We need Manny Rodriguez here.
I could have been wrong, too. As I was saying it, I wasn't sure.
Wait, but Derek Carr is a disaster. He'll give you 2 bad picks. Dennis Allen's not winning a playoff game. Is it the 4-5?
Yeah.
Yes.
So
this is how the Cowboys played the Tampa Bay Bucks last year.
Right. So it could be the Eagles then. So the Eagles could land at 4. I hope so. This is looking good now. Now you got me excited.
If that happens, though, you very likely could have to go to San Francisco in the second round as opposed to playing in the conference championship game.
And,
so
and you
that's the trade-off.
just played a game, too, so you're going to be tired again for that reason.
Yeah.
Oh, can't forget that.
Exhausted, not tired, fatigued.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's nothing like this run, though. I think New Orleans is a nice little, it's like extended practice to play a team like that. I like the way that's looking.
Mark that down.
What else you got for us, Bogusch?
Only in Philadelphia, Maggie, can the head of security be a crook as well. Dom DeSandro oddly close to the field yesterday when Niners linebacker Dre Greenlaw suplexed Eagles receiver Devontae Smith. DeSandro pushed Greenlaw away from the scuffle and said a curse word. Can I spell it, Pete? Is that safe?
No.
No, okay. After the officials talked, Greenlaw and DeSandro were ejected in what was clearly an equal swap.
Dom is now leaving the sideline. Wow, you want to talk about a spark for this sideline. Sirianni saw Greenlaw make contact with Dom. That ignited people. And now, if you're going to go 1-for-1, Dom, who's supposed to provide security, is on his way out. Wow.
He's been with the organization forever. Aaron, you're on the other side around Greenlaw. What's up there?
Yeah, Dre Greenlaw is standing right in front of me, guys. You see it right there, hands on his hips. Kyle Shanahan's just been going after the official right in front of it. He isn't leaving the field right now, too. Guys, this is wild.
That's Aaron Andrews, Little Baby KK, and Tom Rinaldi on Fox.
Okay, I love Rinaldi. He's the best. Like, he's the top of our profession. He is so good at what he does. Dude, it's not 1-for-1. When Dre Greenlaw is like a Pro Bowl level linebacker and Big Dom is the security guy who's telling Kevin Burkhardt where to eat.
I mean, it's security in Philadelphia, so that should count as a little more than...
He's a rather important security guy.
Yeah, he's doing a great job. Everyone gets pelted in the back by batteries. Where's Dom on that one?
Look, I saw a highlight reel of Big Dom highlights from, I think, Barstool, for him just knocking out suckers and lighting up fools, as Jim Rome would say.
Wait, like out on the street?
No,
it's in the stadium.
It's great.
Really?
Yeah.
It's a good highlight.
Also, too, he celebrates with the team as if he actually played on the team. They are really into him. I think I've heard of this guy, but he might have been more famous than I knew. I didn't know Big Dom was such a thing.
Well, what made him a thing is that literally earlier in the game, Burkhardt and Olsen were giving him all these props because he gave this great restaurant recommendation.
Yeah.
Then they put the camera on and was like, well, we can see why.
I also don't think they knew his last name until like midway through this fracas. Like someone had because they just kept calling him Big Dom. And at some point, you got to switch away from Big Dom when he's getting tossed from an NFL game. You need to give him his full introduction.
Yeah, it's hard to do his last name, though.
How about, did you see his official title with the Eagles? He's special assistant to the special advisor to the general manager.
Yeah, he's like a fixer.
Yeah, he's Howard. Yeah, I had someone who used to work for the Eagles basically tell me he's Howie's fixer. That's how they described him.
What do you mean by fixer? He's not saying, hey, you should trade for A.J. Brown.
No. Like you get in trouble in the middle of the night and you're an Eagle, you call him and he goes and fixes
takes
it.
Care of it.
Yeah, he's like the guy
Winston
from
Wolf.
He's like the guy from Breaking Bad.
So is that like Ernie Adams on the Patriots, but not quite? Because Ernie Adams had a football background, but he was the fixer on the Patriots.
I always thought Ernie Adams was the one who was taking all that stolen tape and deciphering the hand codes and stuff.
So
a little more Connor Stallions.
Maggie was talking about his title on the website. I was more intrigued by the picture. I mean, he's wearing a hat on the field. But did you see his hair?
Yeah.
I mean, he's got the crispest dark Caesar I've ever seen, especially from a big Italian fella. Like, I was impressed. I was like,
Also,
wow.
how about the fact that he wears an Italian flag?
No, they all wear them.
Well, him and Sirianni does too.
Sirianni, everyone on the coaching staff.
But something's going on now where you're allowed to put a flag on your hat or your helmet. Because there are guys who have different flags on the back of their helmet. I don't know what it's connected to.
Supporting Ukraine and other things.
No, it's not even it's just like your heritage. Like I saw a guy that has like a South African flag. Like it's another thing you're allowed to put on your helmet now.
I want to say Belichick at some point was maybe something for Poland, I think. I think there was something.
Yeah.
People asked, why does he have a Polish thing? And he had to explain, well, I have Polish heritage or something like that.
Was it Polish or is it Serbian?
Or maybe it was Serbian. No, it was Serbian. It was Serbian. That's
Yeah,
what it was. It was one of the Eastern European countries.
What's crazy about Big Dom is I hope he enjoyed that because that's it. Like, you got to be gone if you're that guy. Maybe he has a lot more influence than we think. But you can't put your hands on a player. You're the security guard. Like,
well, he shouldn't lose his job, I don't think, but he can't be
on the
there
sideline.
anymore. Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, don't fire. If you don't want to fire him, I get that. But
I'd also, I'll even say this as an Eagles fan, kicking Greenlaw out for that was insane.
Yes.
Like, there's no way Dre Greenlaw, and he was the star of the defense by far so far that night. I know Fred Warner is great, but Dre Greenlaw was torturing the Eagles.
And if you were wondering, because I was too, so the NFL can get on the the intercom thing and talk to the officials, and they walk them through ejecting Big Dom, but they cannot tell the officials to call a flag on a non-player or coach on the sideline. So that's why there was no offsetting penalties in that scenario.
Interesting.
There's no power for the league to do that. They can show the referees or goes, hey, you got to throw that big bald guy out.
Yeah.
But they can't initiate a flag through that process.
Okay,
so off a non-player.
But here's a question. Haven't there been threats where the home team will get penalized if the fans have bad behavior? Like if the fans are throwing stuff onto the field, they'll say the next time it's going to be a 15-yard penalty against your team. I feel like that's a threat that's made. Do you throw a flag with that situation?
I think you can.
I've definitely seen that in college football. I think it's the same in the NFL.
But Bogusch, can they
Sam
review
White's
personal
situation?
foul? There was a big one in Denver, Houston, where Alex Singleton got in C.J. Stroud's face. Then one of the Texans took a swing at Singleton.
Right.
And I felt like New York didn't get a chance to weigh in because they gave it should have been offsetting, and they gave the ball to the Texans at the 1 yard line.
So I think if there's a flag, they can look at it.
Right.
And then
like the Isaiah Pacheco thing last night. He ended up getting kicked out of the game last night for the uppercut, but the flag had already been thrown because they were reviewing.
But there's so many times where they get the retaliator. Why don't they always go to the New York and say they're always? I'm not quite sure what.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like it's totally transparent, which is funny for a multi-billion-dollar industry that we're sitting here debating this.
Yeah.
And if I'm reading the explanation correctly, I think the officials on the field could have thrown a flag on Big Dom.
Sure.
But because they didn't, the league can't then tell them to throw it after the fact.
Got it.
But the flag on Greenlaw and the pushing and
Why not?
shoving allows them to look at the whole situation.
Why can't they?
There's an
Because
altercation.
if an assistant coach trips a guy on a kickoff, can't they go back and get that? We see that all the time. I think Tomlin got flagged by it.
He did on Thanksgiving.
But they threw a flag for him, didn't they not?
Right, but
in the white when he was running down the sideline.
Yeah.
I thought they didn't, because wasn't that whole image of Tomlin kind of smiling, walking down the sideline? Wasn't that kind of like the image from that? Because
Also,
he got away with it?
He didn't get ejected from that game. No.
No.
The Jets' strength and conditioning
Right,
guy,
yeah, that
he
guy.
got tossed.
he got a toss, and they gave him a flag for that, right? I believe.
I don't remember.
But
I think they got a
Tomlin
flag, but I think they got a flag, but I believe the flag was for having a coach in the white. Like the coach was clearly on the field, so it was a flag that made sense. Like he shouldn't have been there.
That's why you need the Sean McVay hold me back guy, right? Like the guy who holds the coach.
Yeah.
Let's get to Sunday Night Football. Jordan Love, 3 touchdown passes to get his Packers a 27-19 surprise over the Chiefs. Matt LaFleur proud of Love and his big friends handling that Chiefs defense.
They brought some pressure. They brought some all-outs. He got us into the right checks. I thought the guys up front did a pretty good job for the most part on the night, protecting them.
The Chiefs' last 2 drives included a Patrick Mahomes pick that possibly missed pass interference call, Pacheco getting ejected for the punch, and a Hail Mary falling incomplete. They are now 1 game behind the Dolphins and Ravens for the 1 seed in the AFC. Ohio State QB Kyle McCord put his name in the transfer portal this morning. Yesterday, Ryan Day wouldn't commit to McCord starting their bowl game against Missouri. And there were no NBA games yesterday, so everybody's well-rested for the NBA Cup quarterfinals, which begin tonight with Celtics, Pacers, and Kings, Pelicans. But unfortunately, Kristaps Porzingis is out for Boston. Repeat, KP out for Boston, still dealing with that calf injury.
They're going to load manage in the first round of this in-season tournament?
No, he's hurt.
KP's always hurt.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing about it.
And the fans load manage on these games?
They're not. People seem to love it.
Wait,
actually.
Hold on. Why are they doing this on a Monday and not on a Tuesday?
I don't know, but if at baseball or hockey did this, they'd get yelled at. The NBA is putting it up against Bengals Jaguars.
Well, no, it's just all the in-season tournament games have been on Tuesdays and Fridays. So now you're going to switch it up to Monday?
Monday, Tuesday. I think because they have to clear the weekend for the semis. And
yeah, the semis are this weekend, so they want to make sure we get to the semis.
Yeah.
Oh, this is not the semis?
No, this is the quarterfinal.
Are tonight's courts neon?
Same courts, baby.
Yes.
Oh.
What is the actual schedule this weekend? Friday, Sunday, Thursday, Saturday?
I believe it's a Thursday, Saturday.
Can't wait.
I legitimately can't wait. I think again, fans have been interested.
Schedule.
Game's been awesome. Let's get it.
We will all take this one to the grave. Like, we're just never going to agree on this. 855-212-4CBS. Bogusch, thank you so much. Coming up, major injury with big fallout yesterday in the NFL. We'll get to that. Do not move. Maggie and Perloff, CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. "45 seconds remaining. "30 seconds remaining. "15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back. Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff. We've been talking a lot about college football, the college football playoff, and keep those calls coming. Do you think that FSU deserved to be in the top four? 855-212 for CBS. Spoiler, they are not part of the top four. They were left out despite the fact they went undefeated and won the ACC title. Big injury yesterday that could have major playoff implications, and that was Kenny Pickett leaving the game yesterday in what was a very goofy game against the Arizona Cardinals. 2 weather delays in that game. Arizona gets their 3rd win of the season. I mean, this is not a very good Cardinal team, but obviously much different with Kyler Murray. And now Pickett's having surgery today, according to the Pittsburgh beat writers, including Jerry Dulock.
Yeah, but Schefter said 2 to 4 weeks. Explain this one to me. I guess it's the Brock Bowers tightrope surgery or something. But that seems very, very aggressive to me. This whole game was so funny because I don't know if you saw the play, fourth and 1 at the goal line, an inch-yard line. What do? They go into shotgun. I know nothing makes you more mad.
I just
Maggie,
don't get it.
4th and inches, they go into shotgun, get stuffed.
It.
Then the rest of the game was over. Arizona goes 99 yards for the touchdown, and Pittsburgh just does not show up again. The air went out of the whole stadium when Pickett got hurt, and Pickett's not even that good.
I know, but it had looked so much different after they finally fired their offensive coordinator, Matt Canada. Then you go to Trubisky and not good. Now, here's the thing. Can Trubisky hold the fort for the Pittsburgh Steelers against this barn burner of a schedule? You get the New England Patriots on a Thursday night. Oof. Boy, aren't we all delighted to watch that game. Al Michaels might call in sick for that one. Then you go at Indy, which has been actually a very tough competitive team. Cincinnati without...
Who could lose to anyone, by the way.
Yeah, without Joe Burrow. Then you're at Seattle and at Baltimore to finish things out. I'm not saying that this is going to be the death knell here for Pittsburgh, but this is clearly a big step backwards.
I had said last week that they have a great chance to be the number 1 seed because of that very weak schedule. Not only that, people are talking about them, the team you don't want to see in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. Now this is a team you very specifically want to see in the playoffs. Them or Cleveland. And as you were joking earlier about what does it say about the AFC that 3 AFC South teams could be in the playoffs. I got to tell you, Houston and Indy are way more dangerous than Cleveland and Pittsburgh right now. To me.
I agree with you. And it's funny because Indy is playing with a backup quarterback, right?
But I'd experience good. Trubisky has experience. He was so
played in a playoff game.
He was so ineffective yesterday. I don't know what happened to that guy. It's like he forgot how to play football.
Yeah, I think it's different when a guy gets thrown into action, even though he is has experience. You get thrown out there unexpectedly, as opposed to you have all week to take the first team reps and all of that.
That's a good point.
But I don't know if you can even make that kind of excuse for Trubisky. Again, he's seen too much in this league. But yeah, guys, what we thought could be impossible at the beginning of the season, I think somehow is going to happen. Now, if the playoffs ended today, Houston would be on the outside looking in. But I think Houston is like one of the – I can't say they're a hot team like they're steamrolling through people. And I know they lost Tank Dell yesterday, the fantastic rookie wide receiver, but it didn't matter because Nico Collins was incredible for them.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, they made it interesting, as they tend to do.
Jacksonville plays tonight. They're a 10-point favorite over the Bengals. So Jacksonville, Indy, and Houston could be all in the playoffs for the AFC.
But there'll be a little bit if you look at the schedule, I think Houston and Indy could run into each other a little bit. You never know. I think Houston is way more talented than Indy, too. Houston's offensive line and defensive line destroyed the Broncos. And the Broncos are a 500 team as well. So I think Houston's got way more talent.
Here's another question with the Pickett injury.
Yeah.
So Pickett ankle injury, surgery today, 2 to 4 weeks. So let's play it out conservatively. After 4 weeks, you come back, and the first thing you're going to face is the Baltimore Ravens defense?
Yeah, but who knows?
Luck.
Yeah, I mean, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, throw out the record book.
I know. I'd just be worried I'd do more damage to Kenny Pickett.
Really? They hit Lamar a lot in their last game. So, I don't know. You never know. It doesn't look good. Right now, Pittsburgh lost at home to Arizona, Maggie. Why are you even talking about Baltimore?
855-2124-CBS. The one thing no one is talking about when it comes to the college football playoff controversy, we've got that for you in just a minute. Do not move. Maggie and Perloff, CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. "45 seconds remaining. "30 seconds remaining. "15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
She can put away a large pizza by herself. He's allergic to cheese. They are Maggie and Perloff on CBS Sports Radio.
Just because it was shocking doesn't mean it's wrong. Florida State gets left out of the top 4 college football playoff teams. Welcome to the show, Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff. It is Maggie and Perloff on CBS Sports Radio. It was the story of the weekend, which is hard to push the NFL to the back burner, Perloff, but it happened. College football snubbing Florida State, even though they went 13-0 and won the ACC. They're out. Alabama is in. It may not be right by the letter of the law, but I understand why they did it.
Well, I understand why they did it, but anything the committee does, by definition, errs towards the wrong, because this committee is totally messed up. This whole system is messed up. As there's a viral clip right now of the late Mike Leach saying anybody who calls this a playoff is fooling themselves, because playoff implies that it's getting decided on the field. And this decision is very much saying it is an invitational. It is a beauty pageant. It is not a playoff, because there's nothing playoff about this. We're not really letting people decide who is the national champion on the field, because there are probably 3 teams who are not in this Final Four who could easily have won the Final Four. Ohio State, Oregon, and Georgia. Put them in there. Why can't they compete?
College football has never been perfect. This is as close to, I think, what we want to see as fans is what they did yesterday with their decision. It's never been perfect. Go back to the BCS, it's never been perfect. Before that, it was a beauty contest. It's never been perfect, but at least when you're asking for the 4 best teams,
right?
This is closer. I'm not saying it's perfect. Georgia's not in it. I get it. There's only 4 spots, but at least this is like FSU. Your heart breaks for them, and it was super impressive how they kept things together when they lost not only their starting quarterback, but then their backup quarterback or onto the 3rd string. But they are not one of the 4 best teams.
Yeah, but I mean, next year will be way more fair with 12 teams. And you say, the 12 teams aren't going to be good. These are pretty good teams in the top 12. I mean, listen, you would have Florida State, Georgia, Ohio State, Oregon as 4 through 8. That is very, very good teams. You don't tell me Oregon and Georgia couldn't compete with any of these teams? Of course they could.
They could, but I was saying I wish they had gone to 8. I feel like 8 still is extremely elite, where 12, you're going to get the Liberties in there, and you're going to get the teams that are undefeated who are in these lower conferences.
I don't see any Liberties here. I see Missouri, Penn State, Ole Miss, Oklahoma with LSU. I'll look it back. That's 4 more powerhouses in Missouri. And EJ thinks Missouri is one of the better teams in the country right now.
Very underrated.
This year would have been a great 12 team. Watch next year. It's going to be terrible for some reason, because the committee can never get it right, because it's a flawed concept. A committee choosing who is in a playoff. This is not figure skating, Maggie. This shouldn't be no judges. It should be wins and losses, and that's it.
There are several controversies that are surrounding this. The biggest one is obviously Florida State, because this was the undefeated team that got left out from a quote-unquote Power 5. But the committee told you exactly what you needed to know, what they think about the ACC. There is also a controversy here, and why wasn't Washington the number 1 seed? They have 2...
Who's saying this controversy?
I think Washington fans totally have a right to this controversy, because Washington beat Oregon twice. Not only that, they've got wins against the top 35. They've got 6 to Michigan's 3. They have 5 wins against the top 25 to Michigan's 3. Their strength of record is better than Michigan's. I mean, they head-to-head, they would look much better than Michigan on paper, the resume in terms of strength of schedule, which is what we used in a lot of ways to get Alabama into this top 4.
What about all the near losses, so the style points to really bad teams?
Well, they're playing, well, okay.
I mean, Michigan's trouncing everybody. Doesn't that make a difference?
See, but I think the rivalry game you have to throw out, because Alabama needed a prayer,
right?
A double prayer against Auburn. So that would be a black mark against Alabama, but we're not using it in that way.
Well, I mean, you guys call me excuse. What about Arizona State? That was bad.
Well,
listen. Their whole they battled with the Utah with a backup quarterback. Oregon State, who is really shown they are not that good. Washington State, obviously, they beat in a quote unquote rivalry game, but a lot of these are rivalry games. They were actually Stanford was in that game against Washington too, and they stink. So, I mean, if you're doing any style points, obviously Michigan wins the style point. This year, say what you want about Michigan, they really beat up bad teams.
Who did they play?
But they killed the teams. If you think, okay, who's a favorite? Actually, DraftKings has odds on all these games. They have odds on the hypotheticals. I'm sure Michigan's a favorite. So if you're the one who says Alabama should be in there because of the eyeball test, Michigan's a better team than Washington.
I'm saying that I think that Washington would have a claim to the number 1 seed.
Think
about it.
DraftKings already, you can make a bet. Michigan's a 6.5 point favorite over Washington because they're obviously the better team.
Wouldn't it be better if it was Michigan and Alabama playing in the Rose Bowl? Like, you get Washington in the last year of the Pac-12 playing in the Rose Bowl. Like, that to me was that would have been great. And I know you get a Big Ten team in the Rose Bowl, I understand, but this would have made a lot of sense as opposed to Washington, who's got to travel basically halfway across the country to go to the Sugar Bowl.
But what would your rationale? You're just saying because of the strength of the schedule that Washington. But then again,
I think they have a claim.
Yeah, but how do we know who did Oregon beat to get to this high ranking either? You could get into that. I mean, do we really know how good the Pac-12 was this year?
Well, I think the quarterbacks for that, we definitely know. I mean, there were some really outstanding quarterbacks in that conference.
I mean, I'm trying to think back. Do they have any massive out-of-conference wins? I mean, listen, Oregon, can you imagine if Oregon, remember what happens when Oregon plays Georgia? Usually they Bo Nix gets destroyed by them.
That was that one game, the first game of the season last year.
Yeah, I mean, Oregon had, like everybody else, had a really weak schedule. I don't know if Washington had that signature out-of-conference win to give them that argument. Michigan didn't either, but I'm not sure Washington was. So Washington's early season, Boise State, that's pretty good. Tulsa, Michigan State, that's a tough schedule, but Michigan State had this terrible year, and that's it. So that's kind of weak to me.
Should we hear from Kirby Smart? Kirby Smart lobbying, advocating on behalf of Georgia. This is what it sounded like.
Bill Hancock said, it's not the most deserving. He said, simply, it's the best 4 teams. So if you're going to tell me somebody sitting in that committee room and doesn't think that Georgia team, not one of the best 4 teams, I don't know if they're in the right profession, because it's a really good football team. It's a really talented football team. It's a really balanced football team.
Yeah, I mean, Georgia, they didn't know what to do with. After they lost to Alabama, there was no way this was going to happen. The college football playoff was not going to happen without an SEC team. And they put Alabama in because it's the last thing we saw, and it was a major, major feat to beat a 2-time national champion.
Well, they put him in because they're the conference champion, and the committee's been talking about conference champions for a decade. I guess that criteria fell by the wayside, too.
No, it tells you what they think about the ACC. And not much.
Well, do you think if Jordan Travis was healthy, this would happen?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I think it has to do with I think everything would have looked different. I think it has to do with Jordan Travis. I think it has to do with It was easy to change the precedent in this last year before they moved to 12 because you're not setting a dangerous precedent moving forward.
There's never been any precedent.
To leave an undefeated team out that wasn't UCF.
They've never had even an ounce of consistency from one season to the next, from 1 week to the next. There's no there. The committee is a emperor with no clothes.
There you go. What do you think? 855-212-4CBS. Did FSU deserve to be in, or did the committee do the right thing by trying to pick the best 4 teams? We do this every Monday. 30 seconds on every NFL game from Sunday. We call it the Hurry Up. Okay, EJ, throw out the game. We'll tell you what we think.
All right, let's get to it. So let's begin in Tennessee, where there was some field goal mishaps that helped the Colts beat the Titans 31-28 in overtime. It was a Michael Pittman TD to seal the win in OT for Indy.
If you like special teams, this is the game for you. Back-to-back special team plays with a blocked punt that gets returned for a touchdown, and then a blocked punt fumble in this game, Perloff.
To me, one of the great mysteries of this season is Will Levis good? Answer me that, Maggie. There are plays where he's good. He looks great. He has his funny sidearm deliveries. I don't know. Derrick Henry still looks good. What did the Titans care?
Left the game, though, at one point. And Levis took 6 sacks yesterday. They had 9 penalties. Indianapolis in playoff contention.
Let's head.
A playoff team if the playoffs ended today, yes.
Let's at the Foxborough where it was a snoozer. It was a snoozer with the Chargers winning 6-0. It was 2 field goals for the Chargers enough in the second quarter to win this one.
So the Chargers amazingly made this a game. The Patriots had every chance to come back in the fourth quarter. In fact, Devontae Parker got completely mugged on the sideline. They did not call it. Almost caught the ball. Had a foot out of bounds. There's not much to say about this. Bill Belichick's hat was cracking me up all day. He looked like the Grinch. The guy Duck McScrooge. Scrooge from
McDuck?
Christmas Carol. Scrooge McDuck.
Wait, Scrooge McDuck from A Christmas Carol? You mean Ebenezer Scrooge?
He looked like Ebenezer Scrooge. He was so miserable. Sorry. What did you have to say about that game?
Well, nothing now except for new quarterback, same story.
Let's head to New Orleans, where we're trying to figure out the name of the stadium. I believe Caesars Superdome, but we said is the correct one. Lions beat the Saints 33-28. Career day for rookie Sam Laporta for the Lions.
Yeah, Laporta, 9 receptions, 140 yards, and a touchdown. If no Stroud, maybe he's the offensive rookie of the year. Also, Lions, big bounce-back win. Got embarrassed on Thanksgiving, Perloff. And they almost blew a 21-point lead, but they hung on to win.
Yeah, best play of the game was Jameis Winston hurled it straight to the defender, bounced off 2 defenders, and lands in Chris Olave's hands almost for really made a really close game. We deserve Jameis Winston's football at this point. Derek Carr, I feel bad you're injured, but please give me Jameis.
It was a sad day at MetLife as the Falcons needed just 194 total yards to beat the Jets 13-8.
Why do I get to lead with the Patriots game and the Jets game?
How about it?
Did you guys get the sense that the Falcons just didn't even really want to win that game? I felt like they had every chance to put that away, and they're like, we're just going to hang around. That was terrible football.
Well, they're in first place in the AFC South, so congrats because New Orleans lost to Detroit. I think the big story from this game is Rodgers is not coming back. That's now been floated out more and more.
Yeah.
The playoffs are a pipe dream. And we cannot finally put this Rodgers farce to bed.
Yeah, I mean, we should have 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Cardinals survived 2 rain delays to beat the Steelers 24-10. It was a James Conner homecoming, the former Pitt and Pittsburgh Steeler alum. 2 touchdowns for James Conner.
Yeah, 25 carries, 105, sorry.
Oh, I'm not sure who's first. Sorry. The Cardinals are really out of this competition for the number 1 quarterback now. You said earlier that bringing Kyler Murray back was a mistake, but I think you saw some things from Kyler Murray that maybe you could draft a receiver and you build around what you have.
I guess. I mean, they had a real shot at the number 1 overall pick. I think they might learn to regret that, but the story of this game was Kenny Pickett getting knocked out of the game. He's having surgery today, 2 to 4 weeks where he can return. So Trubisky goes in, was 11 for 17 with a touchdown. TJ Watt left for a while, but came back.
It was a laugher for the Dolphins, who beat the Commanders on the road 45-15. 2 more TDs for Tyreek Hill.
Just total domination. First time Miami is 9-3 since 2001, which I found interesting. But total domination of a bad team with Tyreek Hill, 2 touchdowns, of over 60-plus yards, one for 78 yards, one for 60, still on track to break Megatron's record and get over 2,000 receiving yards.
Means nothing to me. Show me against a good team Dolphins, and you're going to have that chance.
All right, let's get to the next game here. So last 1 o'clock game here, Texans survived the Broncos 22-17. It was a late Russell Wilson pick that sealed the win for Houston.
So Russell Wilson was 15 for 26, 186 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 picks. Tell me again how Sean Payton's an offensive genius. I told you can't average 3 yards per play and win NFL games. They took advantage of a weak schedule, finally ran into a better team and lost.
I really thought they were going to pull it out, the Broncos. On a 4th and 2, they have this beautiful design run play for Russ where he converts, but then on 3rd and goal, he throws the bad pick. Derek Stingley Jr. with 2 interceptions in this game, 3 interceptions all came in the second half.
It wasn't a bad pick. All the plays at the end zone, he was getting chased for his life. So like Sean Payton had no idea the blitz was coming. I thought D'Amico Ryans destroyed Payton on Sunday.
Firing Frank Wright wasn't enough for the Carolina Panthers, who lost to the Buccaneers. Bucs win at home 21-18.
Yeah, I was actually really confused because I was watching that Panthers game, and I actually thought they looked like another team because of that bright blue uniform. I have nothing to say about the NFC South. Get it off my TV. Panthers are giving the Bears the number 1 overall pick. That's the only interesting thing about this to me. Mike Evans, by the way, went over 1,000 again. Hall of Fame career.
Yeah, this is going to be a classic Buccaneers land and no man's land situation. You're 5-7 right now. There could have been a crossroads here where maybe you could have tried to start tanking to get a better quarterback. What are you going to do? You're going to run this back with Baker next year?
I don't know that it makes a difference if you're 5 or 12 for the quarterback. You could still draft somebody.
Let's head to L.A., where the Rams scored 16 unanswered points in the 4th quarter to beat the Browns 36-19.
Yeah, this is a big win for the Rams. They're now on the fringe of playoff contention, which is pretty cool. What I thought was the more interesting thing is Joe Flacco, I guess fine, but Stefanski won't commit to him actually being the starter moving forward when Dorian Thompson-Robinson comes back from his concussion, I guess.
Puka Nacua is probably the toughest dude in the league. He is just hammered the Browns, who are actually a pretty physical, tough defensive team. Incredibly impressed by the rookie.
All right, let's go to Philly, where the Niners beat up on the Eagles 42-19. It was 3 Deebo Samuels TDs.
Yeah, I mean, I was relieved because early on, the Eagles came out like a house on fire, moving the ball down the field. And I said to myself, you do not want to win this game and have to beat San Francisco twice. So I'm relieved that the Eagles did the smart thing and sort of semi-load managed, kept a bunch of guys out.
Yeah,
We're fine.
Yeah.
I mean, Goddard could have played if it was meant anything.
This is delusional Perloff. This is the 49ers actually thumping the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, I think the Niners feel really good about winning that game, and I think they feel really good about beating the Eagles a second time. If it comes to that. Everything working for the 49ers on offense, by the way.
Move over Taylor Swift. Hello, Samel Biles. It was the Packers beating the Chiefs 27-19. 3 Jordan Love TDs in this win on Sunday Night Football.
Thought he was going to give it away. Thought Jordan Love was going to give it away when he took a bad sack on a 3rd and 6, and they end up knocking in a long field goal. You give the ball back to Patrick Mahomes. Who lives to see another day when you give the ball back to Mahomes with that kind of time left? And the Packers were able to come away with the win. There's something seriously wrong with the Chiefs' offense.
Yeah, I would give it more positive on Jordan Love. I was blown away. His first half was outstanding.
Really good.
Really perfect. I think the Packers have done it again, Maggie. I think they're going to keep that quarterback thing going.
And, well, I don't know about that. But also, the defense sacking Mahomes in the red zone 3 times. Okay, got it.
I thought in the last game we didn't get a horn.
Oh, do we not get a horn in the last game?
That was an executive decision by Pete Bellotti. So we get the horn.
Yeah, Pete loves doing the horn.
Pete wants more horn, less Maggie and Perloff.
A lot of horn.
Just all. It's a show of all horn.
Let's bring Joe Horn on the show.
Yeah, exactly.
Other horn
Yeah.
Jim Horn Jr., the guy in Colorado. Okay.
French horn. Love the French horn. Great instrument.
Coach, can we take the music out?
No, more music.
Real quick, they play 4th and 1. The Packers drop back and throw a 50-yard moon ball straight up to Romeo Doubs. on his butt catches. Was that pure luck, or am I missing something?
I said I felt like the Packers got a little lucky in this game, and then everyone's like, no, you got to give them more credit. This was like when Steph Curry's on a heat check and he can like throw it in from the logo. Some of these throws, it felt like Jordan Love was just throwing them up and guys were somehow catching them.
One more thing, the Chiefs look bad, right? But they've never had a run game like Pacheco. I mean, he is a madman. He is so angry at the ground, as someone said.
You don't want to watch more Rutgers games.
I mean, I thought he broke his leg when he got bent back. I don't know if you saw that play. I mean, that was one of the more gruesome plays. And he like Chris Conlon was right. I think his own strength just fought himself out of a major injury.
He also got ejected from the game at the end. You can't throw a swing at somebody.
Is there a scenario where this new kind of Chiefs is actually going to be able to find a way to get out of the AFC? I know they're not explosive like they used to be, but they could play a little ball control, helps their defense, and maybe Chris Jones wins you the game?
I mean, Chris Jones didn't win you the game last night. I don't think this is how the Chiefs want to be playing. No. I think the defense being good is a bonus, but no. They can't be feeling good about this.
I'm not sure they have a choice, though, Maggie. I mean, I'm not sure they have the weapons to play any other way. And not that it was luck, but there were some great plays. That interception that Nixon had for the Packers, that was an incredible play. Somehow he ran the route that the Chiefs guy was supposed to run.
Also, the Chiefs really should have been the beneficiary of a defensive pass interference, which was an egregious no call. Like borderline unforgivable for that crew. Right. It came right after the near fumbled touchdown recovery. Like it could have been ruled a fumble return for a touchdown, but it wasn't because the guy was down by his left butt cheek. And on the very next play, the Chiefs take a shot.
Yeah.
And it should have been DPI.
Well,
it wasn't called.
There are 4 controversial calls. They hit Patrick Mahomes inbounds, gave the Chiefs 15 yards that they shouldn't have had. Then they made a huge mistake where the Chiefs receiver caught the ball, was pushed backwards, and they said he was out of bounds.
Yep.
That would have basically ended the game. But here's the thing: MVS is not getting that call. If that was a good receiver.
Think it was,
I mean, I'm not the only one. Basically, Twitter's like, yeah, that's Marcus Valdes-Scantling. The officials don't think he's going to catch it anyway.
Oh, my gosh. But, I mean, the defender got there 2 weeks early.
Oh, my God. The defender, basically, he could have faced prosecutorial charges for that. There was obviously DPI. It's been tough. The officiating this year, is it us or is it the officials? Are we paying more attention? It sure seems bad right now.
Oh, it's an all-time low. Feels like it. 855-212-4CBS. 855-212-4227. Speaking of what'd you say? Prosecutorial charges? Prosecution?
I don't know. I screwed that up. Something. I can't believe I couldn't say Scrooge. I couldn't pull Scrooge McDuck.
Someone else who may be looking to the courts to try to rectify something in sports. We'll get to that next. Don't move. Maggie and Perloff, CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. $45 seconds remaining. $30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You can stream the NFL on Westwood One for free, sponsored by AutoZone. All season long, you can listen to every Westwood One broadcast of the NFL live on the NFL app by asking Alexa to open Westwood One Sports or on the Odyssey app. Get in the zone, AutoZone. The free AutoZone Fix Finder service can help you find a fix for free. Get in the zone, AutoZone. Restrictions apply. I just got an interesting tweet that reminded me of something. Why aren't we ripping ESPN for their clear role in putting Alabama in at number 4? SEC going to ESPN next year. Do you think there's any way they, who own this sport, was going to let Alabama not be there? Of course ESPN played a role.
I don't even know if ESPN has to like overtly say anything. Isn't it just, it's kind of like, the Jets not bringing in a legit backup quarterback after Aaron Rodgers went down. Like, does Rodgers even have to say it, or is it just sort of implied? Like, hey, you know what to do.
Yeah, maybe you could be right about that, but I wouldn't put it past ESPN to actually make a phone call.
Wait, but hold on. Doesn't ESPN also own something called the ACC network? Why wouldn't they want Florida State in?
Well, they have the Final Four games, right? So they clearly, yeah. I mean, listen, I'm arguing Florida State be in, but that game would have been terrible. Michigan and Florida State would have been awful.
Let's rank Perloff's conspiracy theories when it comes to the college football playoff, because ESPN running everything is one. That's not even that deep. Perloff thinks that the committee hates Jim Harbaugh.
I know that as a fact, because you know who else hates Jim Harbaugh? Anybody else in college football who's not part of the Michigan program.
Wait, so they hate him so much they gave him the number 1 seed?
Well, they had no choice. I mean, they were obviously the number 1 team. But there are so many different things that they're after Jim Harbaugh for. I can't even begin to list them. Obviously, sign stealing, obviously saying that players should revenue share, obviously for pushing the practice rules all over the place. I mean, he's just ignored them 90% of the time when he gets putting the satellite campuses, obviously the recruiting violations. Harbaugh does not like authority.
He doesn't, but doesn't it feel like every other team, like he got investigated for it? If they really didn't like him, they could say, you've had one self-imposed ban earlier in the year, and you have another suspension at the end of the year. We're going to keep you out just because you, they could make up some fugazi rule where it's like, oh, you've been suspended twice. You don't get to participate in the college football playoff. If they really hated Harbaugh, they could come down much harder on him.
I mean, it's one thing to leave out an undefeated Florida State. If they had left Michigan out after beating Ohio State, because everybody knows this sign stealing thing was just media hype. That was the most overblown scandal in the history of the world. So they sent a guy to the opposing stadium to look at the signs. Come on. That's what I'm saying. The committee knew that whole thing was way overblown, so they had to put Michigan number one.
I know, but so is expanded practice time and him buying a cheeseburger for somebody. These aren't these grade 1 violations we're talking about.
He's the only coach who goes out after the game and basically talks trash to the opposing coach. It's normal for other coaches to shake hands. He goes out and say, "Ha, look what we did to you." He's hated. Don't you realize this?
No, I know he's hated by the other coaches.
There's no way they were giving him Florida State in the first game. That would never happen.
This was a really, really big weekend for the Maggie and Perloff show, not just the College Football Playoff Committee, but for us, because we got to do our inaugural virtual watch party, and just a huge thank you to everyone who came out and watched with us. We had a fantastic crowd, and honestly, we were on the air for 3.5 hours, right? The game ended up being about 3.5 hours.
I won the bet on that, by the way.
Yep, that means, and Perloff lost the bet, which means he has to buy breakfast at some point for all of us.
Ooh.
The star of the show was Andrew Bogusch. Can we hear what it sounded like
25
when Bogusch ate an entire cupcake in one bite on our live stream?
Okay, ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. He did it. He did it.
Yeah. He didn't get all the frosting in there.
Oh,
he got all the cake,
easy, EJ.
Bogusch, hero. Look at you. Newsman, proper journalist, cupcake eater.
Yeah, my greatest physical feat since winning intramural floor hockey freshman year at Fordham.
How did that feel? You did a great job.
Well, I don't want to downplay the great job I did, but I was dealt a good cupcake hand. It was on the smaller side. It was on the lighter side. So there wasn't a lot of density to fight through, but there was enough to preclude me from getting my tongue out to recover that little drop of icing that was so important to EJ. But otherwise, yeah, I was nervous. I was prepared. I had a paramedic standing by for choking and whatnot, but it was okay.
Bogusch, why can't you just take the victory? You have to start another feud inside this room. Just go.
I'm an honest man.
One benign comment about frosting, and Bogusch is ready to rip my head off.
Yeah.
It was
have you met Andrew
Bogusch?
The
video.
Maggie was celebrating me, and you had to point out the little drop of icing that fell from my lip.
Honestly, I thought it was it felt athletic what he was doing. You know, that's not easy to do. Put a full cupcake, but now I know it was a smaller one. But still, even though, also very adorable that your child came on wearing a Bills jersey. Very cool.
Yeah, big Bills house all of a sudden, or at least his corner of it.
Billy Wolf said I didn't even swear that much.
Yeah,
I cursed a little.
Good for you.
Luckily, Pete wasn't around. He would have.
I know.
He would have been.
I have no control over that.
Well, they said they were gonna, the weirdos and the coffee drinkers said they would take a shot every time I cursed. I'm like, you're gonna be in a coma.
Thank God you were thinking about them.
I was.
It would have been bad for some of our weirdos.
Well, if it was up to our assistant PD Dave Marinick, he's like, you go at it.
I was surprised. By that. Yeah.
Coming in by text message.
Yeah.
Also encouraging us to drink more on the live stream, which I didn't even think that was. We didn't drink at all on the live stream. I thought that would not have been appropriate.
I had a beer.
Oh, Bogusch was holding it down.
Yeah, I had a beer. Paul Pabst loves his beer. He didn't bring anything. He didn't make any suggestions.
I'm not sure. Paulie hung out for a while. It was great. I don't know how hammered he was. I'd say
no, not hammered. He's a connoisseur.
1.3 alcohol level. No.
6 out of 10. Paul Pabst, of course, from DP Show, came on with us, hung out, and then we said goodbye to him. Zach Gelb came on. Great job. And then, like 45 minutes later, Paulie jumped back in just because he wanted to get back in the conversation about something we were saying. He was like the guest that wouldn't leave, but it was in the most awesome way.
Hottest show in the streets.
It was.
And we're doing one tonight for the NBA quarterfinals?
Yeah, sure.
Look, if it was up to me, I would be ready for it.
I think Pete should host it and just make those noises.
That would be fun.
It's just an open rebellion.
Break down Celtics Pacers should be a good one.
Yeah, what's the final score going to be for that? Yeah,
150 to 165, something crazy.
Anyway, the live stream was a success, so no, we won't be doing it for these play-in games tonight, but maybe in the future with some more fun college football or NFL games.
Hopefully I can make some more blondies.
I know.
Hey, can I ask an in-season question? I'm sorry to do this, but I have to ask. Boston's playing Indiana tonight?
Yes.
Were they on the schedule before, or they changed the schedule around?
There's like an open week, so to speak, where they basically said, look, we'll have these 8 teams, whoever they have to play, we'll put them on the schedule, and they fix the rest of the schedule for whatever they need. So
it's like
basically,
flex schedule.
Right, exactly.
So they flex. I mean, it seems like a pretty big disruption to the scheduling, but it's early enough that they'll figure it all out.
It's only 1 week.
Yeah, everything was built in.
Yep.
And I think I don't think they've done it yet, or maybe they did. They have to schedule games for the teams that didn't advance.
Yeah, they did already.
They did, okay.
Yeah. Okay, and the winners play one extra game this season, or is it the same number of
One
games?
extra game.
Okay.
And for $500,000 each.
Yeah, and then, I will say this. Like, look, there's some altruism. You got guys on the bench who are making basically $500,000. Like, you got those guys, this is basically doubling their salary. I mean, there is something that a lot of these players are playing
EJ,
for.
the league minimum right now is $50 million.
Yeah, by the way. Yeah, I mean, listen,
they blow their nose with $500,000.
There's some guys.
James Harden's making $36 million a year to submarine another team.
It's not about
hear
James
about their
Harden.
hardships. I mean, give me a break.
It's not about James Harden. It's about the Ryan Arcidiaconos and the Robin Lopez's. Those
I think
guys
that Robin Lopez has probably made $100 million.
Okay, maybe he's a bad example. Ryan Arcidiacono's been trying to survive in the NBA, and if the Knicks get to the championship, he'll get a little extra bread.
Wait, Perloff and I are racing each other to see who can get Robin Lopez's
Robin
career
Lopez,
earnings.
who went to Stanford, probably could be a lawyer.
It might be 9 figures by now, right?
Career earnings on Robin Lopez. Who wants to guess? 16 seasons in the NBA.
I'm going to go $75 million.
80.
Yeah, I'll say 70.
EJ?
$1 million.
All right, Bob Barker. 101, $101.3 million.
The Lopez brother.
Total cash. That's the total cash. 16 seasons.
Yeah, I regret bringing up that name. Should have just stuck with it.
There's no name that anyone's ever heard of that you could have brought up that isn't making $100 million in the NBA.
Ryan Arcidiacono might be one.
Right. No, there are a lot of guys who are just basically two-way players that will make money they'll never see again because they'll never be on an NBA roster.
We need to give the $1 million players more incentive to play in the NBA.
But on the flip side, for Arcidiacono, he was in college for 100 years, so he should have 3 degrees.
He got no money because he was in NIL. There was no NIL back then.
I know, he's got a PhD instead.
So he won a national championship. He wasn't getting paid. I feel like Perloff, you should at least back me on that. Like someone like Arcidiacono who didn't get paid in college, who would have made a bunch of money.
What do you think Ryan Arcidiacono, I can't even say it. What do you think his career earning is?
All right, let's go there.
$5 million?
Is he on the Knicks right now?
He is on the Knicks.
Okay.
That dude's made $12 million in his career. I mean, he's
not bad.
Fine.
That's chump change in the NBA nowadays.
That's chump change in the NBA.
But not for life.
On planet Earth, that's more than 99.9% will ever make. And also, yeah, I mean, he's not a great player. That's a reason he's a two-way player.
No, but the point is that those guys on the back end, you say, okay, why would James Harden care? Maybe he wouldn't, but if he cares about his teammates, maybe he would play.
I know, he doesn't.
Another good example, EJ. Come on.
No, I'm saying that's my point, is that he doesn't care, but Julius Randle does, which is why he said, I'm playing for my guys on the back of the bench. It's the Ryan Arcidiaconos. It's the DJ Jeffries, who, I mean, find his career earnings.
He's not a real player.
The funny thing about that is if like Julius Randle really wanted to give one of his teammates $500,000, he could just give him $500,000.
Yeah,
but instead we get to see them play.
His earrings alone cost $500,000.
Right, but instead we get to see them play competitive basketball in a cool environment. Let's get it.
There you go.
Let's get it, DJ Jeffries.
By the way,
it's Daquan Jeffries. Sorry.
But here's my problem, EJ.
That's a fake person.
The normal NBA game is not cool basketball in a competitive environment. The load management is making the regular season game so boring. That's why they had to do this.
No, but you cannot say that about these in-season games, and I'm gonna keep pushing you on it. They've been more competitive.
Even the in-season is good. That's just an indictment of the rest of the regular season. Anyway, that's enough time.
Also, Billy said in the chat, EJ's dog was the star of the live stream. Sorry, Billy. You're right about that. And,
that's fine.
And we got to see EJ's kitchen, and he was making blondies, and he brought some in today.
And they were delicious. I already had mine.
Much better than the in-season tournament.
I could not have eaten the blondie with one bite. That's for sure. That's not built for speed.
Yeah, it's a little dense.
Yeah,
but it's moist on the inside, so good.
Headlines? Do we have
sure,
time?
Why not? Jordan Love's first NFL start came in KC 2 years ago when Aaron Rodgers had COVID. Last night at Lambeau went better, 3 touchdown passes and a 27-19 win over the Chiefs.
Obviously, I've had this game, circled for a long time. It's my first start. Obviously, didn't play how I wanted to the first game. So being able to see these guys again and get the victory is huge. It was just a great team win tonight. Everybody just balled out.
And now the Packers have won 3 in a row and 4 of 5. They are also 16-0 in December under Matt LaFleur. The Chiefs, meanwhile, dropped to 8-4, a game behind the Dolphins and Ravens atop the AFC. In addition to Steelers QB Kenny Pickett reportedly having ankle surgery today and missing 2 to 4 weeks, there's Texans rookie wideout Tank Dell suffering an apparent season-ending lower leg injury in yesterday's 22-17 win over the Broncos. And it's the Jaguars and Bengals on Monday Night Football. I don't know the specifics, but I can tell you that Jacksonville controls its own destiny atop the AFC. If they win out, they get the number 1 seed. Ohio State QB Kyle McCord's in the transfer portal, as is Oklahoma's Dylan Gabriel, but he's also considering jumping into the NFL draft. Manager Jim Leland elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame, and the Mariners trade outfielder Jerry Kelnick, lefty Marco Gonzalez, and first baseman Evan White to the Braves for 2 pitchers. This is Seattle dumping $29 million in salary in Gonzalez and White. It follows them unloading third baseman Eugenio Suarez on Arizona. And Tiger Woods finished 18th out of 20 golfers in his event in the Bahamas, but that is good news.
I haven't done it in a while. I haven't done it with my ankle the way it is now, and I was excited to each and every day to kind of get through it and kind of start piecing rounds together again. I mean, I haven't done this in a long time, so it was fun to feel that again.
This was Tiger's first event since the Masters in April. He had his ankle fused since then. This is just the 3rd time in 2 years he finished a 72-hole event. Scotty Scheffler got the win by 3 shots.
Hey, Bogusch.
Yeah.
What time are you working till today?
Roughly 1 o'clock.
So you'll probably have a Shaq Leonard of Philadelphia signing later in the day and a Zach Ertz of Philadelphia. Do you want to borrow Maggie's Jalen Hurts jersey to do these updates? Because it's going to be a big banner day for the Eagles.
So a guy with no back and the ghost of a tight end are signing with the Eagles and fixing all their problems? Are they sleep doctors, those two?
We'll take them.
Is it one of them actually just going to be signed to be security now for the Eagles? Because Big Dom is not going to be anywhere near the building.
I got to tell you, Big Dom is scary. Shaq Leonard, if that guy kicks you out of the stadium, you're not coming back.
I mean, I didn't think anything could be more peak Philadelphia than this is peak Philly. I thought halftime was going to be peak Philly when the team is down by 1 score. Mm-hmm. They are 10-1 on the season at the time.
And they got booed.
And they got booed.
Yeah. Of course.
Going into halftime, and then the security guard got kicked out, ejected because he put his hands on Greenlaw.
They were booed multiple times in the second quarter, and I get it. They were getting field goals when they needed touchdowns. I was booing the TV screen, but this was a wake up call, Maggie. This was the loss we needed to refocus for the second half of the season. That's what Bill Belichick would say, and that's what I'm saying.
This loss was so bad it was like 2 losses. That was rough. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Okay. Lots more to do, including what did we get wrong from the weekend? That is next. Don't move. Maggie and Perloff.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Maggie and Perloff. EJ, can we get some final poll result updates here? How did America and the world feel about Florida State being left out of the college football playoff?
Yes. So we asked the poll question, simple. Who should be in the college football playoff? We have either Alabama or you have Florida State. So plenty of votes coming in. Final results here. 60% say Florida State. 39% say Alabama.
Yeah, I think Florida State has definitely grabbed the attention of the public. Like, people may have watched that game against Louisville. It was not a very pretty game, but the fact that you did win, you are undefeated, and I think seeing how crestfallen the team looked, I think has really changed a lot of people's minds.
Well, I'm actually surprised by this result. I thought Alabama was sort of the Dallas Cowboys of college football and more popular. I kind of thought it was going to be the opposite. I thought Alabama would get 60%.
I think most people also were rooting for Alabama against Georgia.
Yeah,
just
you
to
want to see the
upset,
underdog.
right?
Yeah, you root for the underdog.
See the chaos,
But I do think now Florida State has become that underdog. So I think, several people pointed out this could be the best case scenario for Florida State. They can always say we got ripped off instead of losing in the first round. So this, in a way, could be the better scenario, believe it or not, because Tate Rodemaker comes in. Unfortunately, they're probably going to lose by 60 to Georgia in the.
Yeah, but the bowl game, who cares?
I know we know that, but you're right. You logically know that, but you're going to see it, and obviously Jared Verse isn't going to play. Keon Coleman probably won't play. So what are we going to really see?
No, it's not going to be the same, and that's just the devalue of the bowls. I think for an FSU fan saying like, oh, well, at least you wouldn't have lost in the first round, that's not going to make them feel better today. And in fact, I think that the desire to leave the ACC is probably going to be stronger now than it was even before. And the irony is the guy that was the chair of the committee that kept Florida State out is an ACC athletic director, NC State.
Yeah, Boo Corrigan.
It's very odd.
Yeah, and I can't believe Hancock's still around. What's his name?
Bill Hancock.
He's still involved in this thing? Nothing good. I can't believe you are. you love a conspiracy theory. You love making fun of committees. I can't believe you're actually siding with them today.
Well, because I think that they got as close as humanly possible to putting the 4 best teams in the top 4. Now, that's not going to make a Georgia fan feel any better. I grant you that. But I think they got closer. And these are going to be great games. And we got to see it play out. But you don't want to see Michigan, Alabama, or Washington, Texas?
Yeah, I do.
That's exciting.
I'm going to watch. Yeah, especially now that I understand there's a huge bet going on.
Massive show bet. I'm glad you brought that up. A lot of personal, this is like personal pride on the line. This isn't about a team that we like. This is not our Bills-Eagles bet. This is about bodies on the line.
Gosh, I would have felt... How panicky would you guys have been if it was Michigan versus Florida State? Because the bet is Michigan will win a college football playoff game. If they lose, I have to wear a wrestling singlet. And if they win, you guys have to wear a wrestling singlet. Yeah, in January, by the way, when your body has not seen the sun.
It's going to be rough. Wrestling singlet.
I'll be honest, I feel pretty good about Alabama. Like, if that was Florida State, I would have been shopping for singlets today.
Well, that's the question. So EJ and I are on the same side that we think Michigan is going to lose. Perloff thinks Michigan is going to win. Do we get to pick out the singlet for each other? Like, does the winner pick out the singlet for the loser? Well, we'll mull that over as we get to our shot of the day.
He shoots!
The shot of the day, oh boy, is brought to you by Casamigos Tequila.
Wow.
Whoa, Casamigos Tequila is brought to you by those who drink it. Perloff just showed me a photo.
I thought this was a wrestling singlet. Now I realize as I look at this website.
XXX website.
Yeah.
Please get off the Wi-Fi.
Oh my God.
Singlet. This was the second one to come up.
Also, that's not fair that you would show me that as I'm about to read something important for one of our very valued sponsors. We love you, Casamigos. Huge win last night for the Packers.
Why is it made of leather?
Why is there no front or back? It's weird. All right. Shot of the day, little snapshot of the show, comes from, we try to do something called the hurry up offense around here, where we give you 30 seconds on every NFL game from Sunday, and it didn't go well.
Yeah, there's not much to say about this. Bill Belichick's hat was cracking me up all day. He looked like the Grinch. The guy... Duck McScrooge. Scrooge from Christmas Carol. Scrooge McDuck.
Wait, Scrooge McDuck from A Christmas Carol? You mean Ebenezer Scrooge?
He looked like Ebenezer Scrooge. He was so miserable. Sorry.
Speaking of what'd you say? Prosecutorial charges? Prosecution?
I don't know. I screwed that up.
Something.
I can't believe I couldn't say Scrooge. I couldn't pull Scrooge McDuck. That's the problem with the hurry-up offense. We don't have enough time to process our thoughts. 12 games in 12 minutes. This is the kind of mayhem you guys are creating.
That's why it's called the hurry-up offense.
There you go.
Whatever, Bilotti. If you'd stop blaring that horn and ruining my concentration.
To be honest, everyone hates the horn. So
That's why we got to keep doing it.
Can we get a different horn? Can we get like Booga, like that horn? There's got to be other horns out there.
I was playing through several horns. I thought the air horn made the most sense.
It sounds like a fairy.
And what people don't understand that the guy that actually plays the horn is actually here in the control room. So we have to have him change it up a little bit.
You bring a whole different, we've got a clarinet in next.
Can we get something a little more like auditorily pleasing? Like, can we get a flute?
Like the iPhone alarm when your alarm goes off in the morning?
That would make me scared.
That sounds awful.
I was thinking I'm going to be running late coming into work. I don't want to hear that.
No.
Whatever. You guys have lost me because I'm Googling singlets. There's multiple problems with the singlet. Obviously, the exposure of the upper body, but the lower body might be just as big a problem for the men on the singlet. And EJ, you're sitting there. I mean, Alabama's a 1-point dog here, 1.5-point dog. This could be bad for you.
Look, I don't think that you're going to see Jim Harbaugh get away with playing old man football against an Alabama defense. I feel good.
The one thing you can always count on Jalen Milroe for like one or two just really mind-boggling decisions in the game. That's what I'm a little nervous about. Yes, we're going to have to figure out if I lose, if EJ and I both lose, how am I doing this? There's got to be singlets for women.
Oh, yeah.
There's women who wrestle.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's plenty of wrestling singlets for women. We see it in WWE, AEW. We'll figure something out.
Hopefully it doesn't come to that. Also, don't we all kind of want to see Perloff rocking the singlet?
So, again, America rooting for Alabama against Michigan.
Again. Who knew that Perloff not only... There we go. Thank you, DJ Stewart. Thank you to Pete Pilati, Andrew Bogusch, Andrew Kaplan. Guido's coffee drinkers, not only for today and every day, but for Saturday during the virtual watch party. You are awesome. We'll see you tomorrow.